All right, good evening, everyone. Before we get going for regular session at 7:30, we have a few interviews to conduct. We're going to go in the order in which they are listed on the agenda. First up, we have Bobby. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Just for the record, because the situation has changed with planning board, we had two prior candidates. Rory and I had submitted a motion back in August. That was rescinded at the end of the meeting because two members asked for additional time to consider. We now have two new members, or two new applicants, one of whom is a client of mine. I've filed a recusal with the clerk, so I'm going to step away from those interviews.
Okay. All right, we're going to begin with Bobby Vovadova, and I apologize if I've mispronounced that, looking to be appointed to the planning board. So I invite you to just come on up to the microphone here. Right there. Votava, my apologies. And we're going to try to move through these interviews rather quickly so we can start the regular session at 7:30. I'm going to ask similar questions, so just sort of keep that in mind. We have received your application, but if you want to tell us, more about yourself, why you think you'd be a good planning board member, and if you've been following the planning board meetings, maybe some challenges and successes that they've been dealing with. So go ahead. And if you could push the button on the right there.
I was offered the suggestion to come forth and apply and be interviewed for a position on the planning board. And I am here, and I'm not sure from where to start, so I'll rely on your leadership to take me forward.
All right. Well, I'll give you a layup here. Why do you think you'd be a good fit at the planning board?
Why the planning board?
Yeah. Why do you choose that group? Why do you think you'd be a good fit? Why do you want to serve?
Well, I think we certainly have a respect of the town and where it's at this point in development and growth over the years. And we would like to make sure that it retains these qualities and can continue to invite people to come and meet at their homes.
All right. And if you've been following the meetings at all, maybe you could identify some successes or challenges or just sort of things that are going on, maybe state level or town-wide as potential challenges at the planning board and things to work through?
We get the independent, so we try to keep up on local gossip as best we can. And at the moment, I'm not aware of any so-called major problems or issues that need to be resolved or work toward a solution.
Okay. Any other questions for Bobby?
I can just ask one if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of experience. It says 20 years of city planning in New York City. Can you tell us about one of the particular projects or something that you're proud of that you accomplished in that 20-year span?
I was employed with the Mayor's Office of Development. The purpose of that office was to work with the different offices, city planning, environmental management, etc. But occasionally situations come forth that you needed to bring several of these agencies together to try to work on something a little unique. One example was in lower Manhattan, quite low. There was a location where three streets kind of came to a common meeting point and then went on the way. So at the time that the World Trade Center was being planned, it was advised that this intersection where these streets came together, it had on it a building, and they couldn't widen the streets, of course, because of the building, etc. So the city acquired the building, and therefore could work to get to widening some of the streets, etc., etc. So emergency vehicles could quickly get into this facility. Well, over time, this nice little spot in the center of this intersection became kind of parking spot. And so if you couldn't find a place elsewhere, you were there. So it was a constant hangout for cars. So the communities raised heck about this and wanted a solution and so forth. And so I was asked to kind of take over to see if we could resolve this. So I took this piece in the intersection and proposed to make it into a park. And but instead of focusing just on landscaping, etc., I recommended that they do something maybe with a piece of artwork. And so I had one of my loves is art and sculpture, etc. So I was wondering if, for example, would Louise Nevelson be interested in maybe donating a piece for this island? And so we met with her in the gallery, Arnold Glacier at the gallery, the Pace Gallery that she was represented by, and so we took her to the particular site and discussed the dimensions that would be available, etc. And so eventually she came forth and decided to donate a piece. And so it's near the Federal Reserve in Lower Manhattan, and that's kind of a general. If you get lost in trying to get down there, you look for the Federal Reserve building and so on. So it was situations of this type. Maybe a piece of a building, a small industrial building was sitting vacant, etc., and the community and the planning people agreed that it could be incorporated into something else, etc., etc. So the purpose of the Mayor's Office of Development was to make sure that these agencies didn't kind of dump it on the other one and the other one, and goes back and forth and nothing was accomplished. And so to try to expedite and keep things moving forward. So so that was kind of what my background was.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. That's all we have for you tonight.
Okay.
And you should find out hopefully tonight.
I'm sorry?
You should find out hopefully tonight.
Okay. I'll have a seat and enjoy your meeting.
Thank you. All right, Joseph Martin, also looking to be appointed to the Planning Board.
Ask away.
Joseph, going to ask you a similar line of questions. Number one, why do you think you'd be a good fit for the Planning Board? And then number two, if you've been following any of the meetings, maybe you can identify some of the successes or challenges that's on their plate at this time.
Okay, well, I had 50 years in one way or the other of civil engineering, infrastructure, environmental, transportation. And I started as a working engineer, got my engineer's license, and then I became a professional consultant. But the most important thing I bring to it is I was 16 years on a school board in suburban Philadelphia, and there the school districts own their own land, and we would come before the planning board, the township, like any other developer, even though they're the same population. And I actually played the role, along with Maureen, the superintendent, of the owner. So we would be backing up. So I bring that experience as the owner behind all the consultants. And we got 8 projects with better part of $1 billion through. And so 50 years in infrastructure.
All right. Any questions for Joseph?
And as far as what's hot now, I think the biggest thing, we have always a problem with people mixing up their English. They'll call something dense, which means just too many. And so I would point out to the students that the zoning for 1 acre zoning says you get a contract to design it for 100 units less the streets. And then you'll be paid. And then it'll go to the zoning board and hear it, and everybody, and they'll batter you down to 15, no, batter your client down to 50. And of course, you'll get to do the job again. Problem with that is it just chews up land. And we have a serious problem. Many regulations just chew up land just to do it, including a lot of stormwater stuff like that. So I would bring to the board, when they propose stormwater, I'd want to know that it's the most appropriate stormwater thing for the site. And it's everything from green roofs to infiltration, and I expect with the designers will have gone through every one of them to fit the site, the town. And the other big issue coming up, of course, is what to do with the vacant school buildings. I'm pretty sure they're going to be hot potatoes. Every meeting I've been to recently, somebody comes up here to speak about it. I have no idea what to do with that, just to say that's a hot issue.
All right. Thank you, Joseph.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we also have Jeff Elia looking to be reappointed to the Zoning Board of Review.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jeff, welcome, and tell us what's going on at the Zoning Board of Review.
Just here for the reappointment, I guess. I've served one term, if you will. I've enjoyed it. I think we bring some value to what it is we do. It's a pleasure to work with both Jamie and our town attorney, who work us through a myriad of issues. So I'm happy to continue to serve if you see fit.
All right. Any questions for Jeff? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, next we have Thomas Daniels, also looking to be reappointed to the Zoning Board of Review.
Thank you. Good evening.
And same thing, tell us what's going on.
Tell you what's going on. I've been on the zoning board for 8 years. I'm currently the vice chairman. My background is in administrative hearings. I spent 15 years in an administrative hearing position with the state of Rhode Island. I know how to ask the questions, determine the facts, make fact-finding, and issue decisions. And I'm happy to be here with my colleague that just left. One more, we'd have a quorum, right, Amy? So I'll answer any questions you have.
All right, excellent. Any questions?
I think just from that little 2-minute introduction, you give us a lot of confidence that you know what you're doing, you care about what you're doing, and you do it professionally. So thank you for serving.
Okay.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Tom.
it. Appreciate it very
I
much.
second that, Deb. Absolutely. You're fantastic. Thank you.
Anything
I'll
else?
tell you what's interesting.
Go ahead.
And I sat in a little bit of a zoning board meeting recently, and when
Okay.
you guys make a decision, you have to, state findings of fact on the record,
Yes.
such that, if it's on appeal, you guys,
Yes.
won't be
Absolutely.
overturned.
Absolutely.
It's very different from the council, which is more of legislative.
Right.
We don't have to have findings of fact. We can sort of.
Quasi judicial, as our wonderful counsel over there will tell you.
So it was interesting to experience.
Great.
But thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, it's going to finish our interviews. We're going to dive right into the regular session. Today is Monday, September 22. First order of business, as always, is Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. All right, next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land in which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next, we have the roll call.
Council President McEntee,
Here.
Council Vice President Marin,
Here.
Councilmember Bergner,
Here.
Councilmember Alley,
Here.
Councilmember Wedgemont.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. It's going to move us to item 5, approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Motion to approve items 5A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. It's going to bring us to item 6, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve items 6A, B, C, D, E, and F on the consent agenda.
E and F.
E and F. I said that.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. It's now going to move us to item 7, licenses. A is a resolution granting a temporary mass gathering permit to Main Street Productions with Birch and Bay Restaurant and the Contemporary Theater Company of Main Street, Wakefield, to conduct the Wakefield Oktoberfest on Saturday, October 4, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m., subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town and receipt of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured for the event in the amount specified by the finance director. Application by Stephen Fox. Stephen,
Hello, how's it going?
welcome.
So we're doing Oktoberfest again this year. It'll be Saturday, October 4th, because Phil's sold recently and we're still waiting for Birch and Bay to open. We have Main Street Productions running the show this year, Birch and Bay and the Contemporary Theater Company along for the ride. But it should be just as good as it always is. We're excited to fill the town with music, food, beer, and an Oktoberfest spirit. We have been in touch with State Department of Transportation about closing Main Street between Kenyon and Robinson for vendors and entertainment for the first half of the day, closing at 9 a.m. and then reopening at 6 p.m. Any questions? Any thoughts?
Well, we look forward to the event. It's always a big one, always a fun one. Brings a lot of people to town.
Yeah.
Gets busy. It's always a fun time. But any questions for Stephen?
Motion to approve item 7A.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just not a question, but a quick comment. I attended both the Ska Festival you did and the Renaissance Fair. That was a great event. Good use of Saugatucket Park as well.
Yeah, we're very excited. So the Ska Festival is set up sort of this way with Main Street Productions taking the lead, and then the Renaissance Festival was the theater's baby. We're very excited about that. That was state grant funded this year, and so we're very excited to keep the momentum running from that.
You guys did a great job, and everybody seemed to be having a wonderful time.
And the park was clean as soon as we were done. It was great.
All right. Do I hear a motion? Do
We
we have a
already
motion?
have
We have
a-
a second.
so,
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Just happy to volunteer. We all volunteer at
Great.
various points, so
Yeah.
just have whoever reach out. I'm happy to donate my time to Apple swipe the people in, whatever our job is.
Main Street Productions, Ken Tetzner is probably the main point of contact.
Yep.
So he'll be handling the front
Requests.
of the gate and volunteer requests
No
and
problem.
everything.
See you then. Take
Of
care.
course.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That passes. Good luck. We
Thank
look
you
forward
very
to
much.
it. See you then. All right. Item B is a resolution granting a temporary mass gathering permit to Sons of Liberty of Kingstown Road, Wakefield, to conduct the Arts and Eats on Saturday, October 18, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Application by Paul Baptista.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Saturday the 18th of October, we're looking to have another Arts and Eats. It'll be ourselves, Providence Food Trucks, Field of Artisans. From 12 to 6, we'll be providing a safe and responsible time for enjoying spirits, food, and shopping.
Nice. Any questions? Good.
Yeah. So that's always a huge event. It's a big, if the weather's not great, it's very, what?
Sorry, you can finish.
It's very, very crowded. I just wanted to make sure you have a plan for parking and people crossing, because in the past, it's been very, very busy.
Yes, there'll
Crossing
be-
over 108.
Yep, there will be a traffic detail provided by the town. The police department will be parking at the pump house as well as the back side of the warehouse. And there will be plenty of parking on that side of the building. And the outdoor space will be for the shopping. So the indoor should not be crowded at all, which is always a bonus.
Okay. Love it.
All right. Any other questions?
You go.
Motion to approve item 7B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Good luck. I know
Thank
it's
you
going to
so
be another
much.
great one.
Hope to see you all there.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, it's going to move us to item C, a resolution granting a private detective license to Dominique Danito of Wakefield, application by Dominique Danito.
You're not in disguise.
I'm not. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank
and
you.
We don't always get these requests, but Feel free to tell us about your business if you wish.
Absolutely. So for the last 5 years, I've worked for a DoD contractor and have accumulated hundreds of hours of counterintelligence training. I am the communications security manager for Secure Room, and I just thought that there might be some way that I could continue on and bring something back to the community. So my initial goals as far as business go is to provide tenant screening to property owners so that credit and background checks to support safe, reliable clients coming into our community. On the other end of that, I'd like to provide tenant empowerment program, which will be affordable reports to renters, including background checks, safe to report on the property and neighborhood that they're going to be in, and notarized references to strengthen their applications so that there's some power put back in the hands who are trying to find housing. In addition to that, corporate investigations and due diligence. I'll do insider threat inquiries, fraud checks, background due diligence for businesses and organizations. So my overall goal is to improve fairness, safety, transparency in housing while providing trusted investigative services to the community.
All right.
So you're not going to be in the divorce world?
No. Please,
Just
no.
joking. That's why I was thinking, I'd become in disguise, because you're going to be like spying on people.
I'm going to be behind a computer.
Yeah, white collar crime.
Yeah.
Motion to approve item 7C.
All right, we got a motion.
Second.
We got a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right, that passes. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, it's now going to move us to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Council President. There are many items on, but I will get through them fairly quick. We're going to add one, which is the School Building Committee Chair, Kate Massinati, is going to be updating on something that came up at the School Building Committee Thursday night, and the request would also be to move item K under new business up so that that can be addressed as well. So, and we will be taking off item B from the town manager's report to start. So the School Building Committee, Kate Massinati, would be the first one. There you go, Kate.
I need to refresh my memory as to what I'm speaking to that came up on Thursday.
On the 60%?
Oh, I was like, what came up? Nothing came up. I'm going to actually pass it off to Kate Turner. We have a recommendation that we're presenting to the town council for the 60% CD. And I'd like you to get into a little bit more description. We wanted to clarify that it's not 60% of the budget, it's 60% of the drawings are, it's complete design. And I'm going to actually pass it off to Kate Turner to handle that.
Thank you, Kate. Yes, that was an important distinction we made during our building committee, that the 60% is the progress of completion of the drawings, not the progress of the estimate. So it is a complete estimate. It is one of the items, it is one of our follow-ups from our previous meetings. I'm just going to pull our screen up now. So we have been continuing to, the design team has been continuing to work in refining the drawings and preparing them for our final bid packages. So with that, we had another stop for our 60% progress construction documents to be estimated, taking into account the bids that have already been received and awarded as part of our GMP number 1. So just as a refresher, taking a look at our total project budget, we are at $150 million. Within that $150 million, we have $116,266 and $963 earmarked for our construction budget. And that is essentially the value of our contract with Gilbane for the cost to actually do the building of the building. In addition to that, as part of the 150, we also have $3,136,000 for furniture, fixtures, equipment, and technology. So that'll be all of the desks and chairs and smart boards within the school. Curtis Corner is also within that $150 million at $11 million earmarked for that scope of work. Professional services and expenses is $12,807,000. And then owner's contingency, which is held outside of the contractor's budget and held outside of their contract. It's usually around 5%. We're holding roughly $6.8 million. So all of that totals our total project budget of $150. So right now, the estimate is tracking against the construction budget of the $116 million. So within that, we've broken down Gilbane's estimate into a couple of different factors in a similar way that we presented the last estimate in design development. So within that, we have a 3% contractor contingency, or GMP contingency, some will call it, and that is Gilbane's contingency built in within their contract to use for buyout or schedule acceleration or means and methods for them to continue to do their job. It is not meant for them to pay contractors extra. So within that is also our design estimate allowance. We are still holding some escalation and some coordination dollars to account for, again, that remaining 40% of detailing that the architects have to do, as well as price increases between where we stand right now at this estimate and when we buy out our final contract closer to the end of this year. So our total with all of those items accounted for with our progress estimate is $115,534,000. So we're about $750,000 under budget. And that is, that's a wonderful thing. We're going to continue to refine the designs as we work towards a constructible and biddable set of documents to hopefully grow that variance even further, but we are pleased to present our project under budget. Any questions?
Go ahead. You can continue on.
All right. The next item that was a follow-up for us was our recommendation for a change order task force. So part of that owner's contingency and the contractor's contingency is a very normal part of construction, which are change orders. They come up for unforeseen conditions, things that we couldn't have known about beforehand. They come up if there's a coordination issue between some of the trades, if there's a duct that's going through, a steel member. There's costs associated with maybe rerouting some of that ductwork or sprinkler head or any of those items that may conflict during construction. So those are uses of contingency, as are any requests by either the state office or authorities having jurisdiction in the town, building official, fire marshal as they do their inspections, if there are any additional requests there, or owner betterments or requests if there's a change or modification that comes up that is a request of the owner, then that's also another use of contingency and would go through this change order process. So in order to move this along efficiently, sometimes these decisions, especially with unforeseen conditions, need to be made very quickly in order to not stop construction, in order to continue to move the process along. So rather than bog down these meetings with every change order that comes across and have to wait several weeks to make decisions, we're recommending pulling together a task force that'll be made up of a town council member of your choosing, a member of the building committee, the deputy town manager, the superintendent or principal of the high school or their designee, left field, as well as the finance director. The architect and construction manager will be in attendance at these meetings. We are looking for a weekly meeting to hold these task force meetings. And then, based on the limits that we'll review next, we'll follow a process to bring them in front of the building committee, town council, and school committee. Any questions on the makeup before I move into limits?
Good.
Is there any reason why an even number or an odd number would be better? Because I see that you have 6, but...
Typically, we don't see it split down the middle.
Okay.
They're usually not that controversial of items. And if they are, if we are divided on the task force, it'll just progress to the building committee and town council for additional votes.
Thank you.
Are you including the architect and construction manager as part of the task force?
They won't be voting members, but they'll be in attendance at all of the meetings.
Are you looking for us to identify a town council designee at this meeting tonight?
I don't know if we need it tonight, but we would probably, by the next meeting, look for
When
a
will the first
recommendation.
meeting of the task force be?
It has not been scheduled yet.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have any open change orders that will require any designation or any votes as part of this process. But by the next meeting, we would look for a recommendation.
Because our first meeting in October, I believe, is the Tuesday after Columbus Day. Okay.
Yep, that would be fine. So looking at the limits, we have a couple of different scenarios that we've tried to address. The first being an emergency authorization. If we come across something on the project that needs an immediate decision, typically something that needs further exploration. If we find something that we don't know what it is and we need to bring somebody in to figure out what it is, within $5,000, we would be able to, left field would authorize on a time and material basis not to exceed $5,000 with a written approval with the task force and building committee on CC. We would be able to give them the authorization to move forward with any emergency work. They would track all of their time on work tickets and all of their materials, which would then need to be approved through the task force process, depending on the limits of that total value. So some of those situations would be a life safety issue, exploration, and something that would cause an undue delay if an immediate decision were not rendered. So typically something that they would say, we have to stop work until you tell me what to do.
This is new to me, so you're going to have to educate me. Do these task force in other towns that you're working in have to comply with OMA requirements?
No, they're not a subcommittee, so it's a task force that has greater flexibility of being able to meet without the OMA posting and time requirements.
That's why I was asking the question, because
Yes.
of the 72-hour requirement. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, so the intention of the task force is to be very nimble and flexible in these types of situations, to be able to thoroughly review the information, have the oversight, but have the flexibility to not cause delays. So under $10,000, not considered an emergency authorization, would require a majority vote by the task force to authorize work to proceed. School building committee, school committee, and town council would be notified of the discussion and authorization at the following meeting. Between $10,000 and $25,000 would require a majority vote by the task force and school building committee in order to authorize the work to proceed. School committee and town council would be updated at the following meeting. $25,000 or above would require a majority vote from the task force, then go to the SBC for recommendation, and then to town council for a majority vote of those larger dollar change orders. And then the school committee would be notified of that progress at their next meeting. For elective changes, we made a couple of modifications to that process, as they are typically not as time sensitive. So up to $15,000 would require a review and majority vote from the task force and authorization by the SBC prior to authorizing the work to proceed, and then school committee, town council would be notified at the following meetings. For $15,000 or above for elective changes, this would require a majority vote by the task force, going to SBC for recommendation of authorization, and then again to town council for a majority vote prior to proceeding with those elective changes. At any point, the task force can elevate any change order to go in front of the building committee or the town council, regardless of any limit. Prior to it going to the task force, it'll also get a thorough review by left field's team, as well as the architect and construction manager, prior to any recommendation to the task force. As we mentioned, all change orders that have been authorized to proceed will be presented at the following meetings. We'll be providing a cover sheet with all of the authorized change orders as part of our financial report that's submitted every 2 weeks. And then the final approval for all of these authorizations to proceed, or ATPs as they're called by Gilbane, they'll be compiled within the AIA G701 contract amendment. That is the formal change order. Those will all be presented for approval to town council and then be executed by the town manager. Funding would not occur until after that contract document is authorized by town council and signed by the town manager. So
I got
that's
a few
lot.
questions I want to ask you here.
Yes.
Unforeseen conditions, those are more time sensitive as compared to elective changes, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, now I want to talk a little bit about the unforeseen conditions. Only those that exceed 25,000 require town council approval. I just want to ask, in light of the fact that these are time sensitive and we only meet twice a month, is it possible that there's some inflexibility here and that you identify something on a Tuesday morning and we don't meet till 2 weeks later? Could that potentially have a negative impact on the project?
If it's a value above 25,000, we would request flexibility if there were a need for a special meeting for that level of authorization.
Okay, so that's how we would sort of deal with that.
Yes.
If it were such that the next meeting were 2 weeks later and the costs involved were in excess of 25, you would request a special meeting.
Yeah, and another another option to that, if it were that time sensitive, would be to break it up into pieces and be able to proceed with a smaller value. And then by the time we've kind of moved through those few chunks, we've made it to our next building committee or town council
there's
meeting.
Sort of, I guess, discretion there in breaking up costs incurred in excess of 25 to make them below such that they wouldn't allow or wouldn't require council approval?
That's not going to be a typical procedure. Again, this council has oversight of every change order that's going to be authorized to proceed. So everything that is reviewed, if you see a lot of $4,999 change orders come across your desk, you'd be within your right to question them.
Well, I'm just asking you the process by which you do that, because you're the one who
Yes.
just said it. So, I mean, according
If
to
it
what
were-
you're presenting, the council would only approve, the council would only vote on anything in excess of 25,000. I asked you about the potential inflexibility about that, considering we only meet twice a month.
Yes.
In response to that, you said, we could shop up the cost so that it's lower, allowing us to have a little more flexibility in approving it faster. That's how I interpreted what you said there.
Okay, well, let me clarify. If we were not able to hold a special meeting, there would be correspondence about what within that $25,000 is immediate and needs to be proceeded with in order to continue work to move forward.
Okay.
So-
Go ahead.
For a special meeting of the town council, I guess this isn't me. Some people are very busy and they don't work conveniently close. So would we have to have just three of us? Could three of us convene? Does that make you feel a little bit more at ease? Because I think a special meeting, if we had to pull, I don't really like disaster planning, but like if we had to pull everyone together, we only have to really pull 3 people together to have a meeting, and we could potentially do that without all 5, correct? I'm just trying to...
Correct. Your quorum is 3.
Just to be clear, whatever is needed by the council as to a vote to ensure that any change order is approved to keep this thing on track, I'm for. I'm just pointing out a potential inflexibility so we can discuss it. I think we are getting clarity there, which is good.
Yes.
This is why we're voting on a particular procedure for change orders.
Correct.
You need to understand it before we vote on it.
Exactly. This is why we're here. This is change orders come up. They come up frequently. I don't foresee a lot of over $25,000 change orders needing an immediate action. If we do come into that scenario, though, we do appreciate the flexibility of being able to meet or to, again, correspond via email as to how we want to proceed.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think you've done a lot of work vetting out all the different scenarios. I think that I don't see the table in the memo is that on here?
It's not on this screen. It is within the memo, though.
So the table is actually excellent, so you can sort of see it all laid out if you look at the memo that was attached. That was really helpful. I know that you investigated other towns and you did a lot of learning from what other change order processes were, so I appreciate it's very clear, and And I think like even the small amounts, they're just, you know, I think the small amounts, very easy, you know, 15,000 is like, whatever, 100th of the budget?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Or a thousandth? Thousandth. It's
Yeah.
1,000th. So, you know, you're talking a very small percentage of the overall budget. So I think that it's a nice, small number to sort of work with and hopefully solve the problems that you come across.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. I'm happy with this.
All right, any other questions?
No, we just have to give you someone next week. So Jim, can you just make sure that this appointment, unless we're doing that tonight, we can't do it tonight, correct? Amy?
Correct, it's not on the agenda for
Okay.
an appointment.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve item 11K?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Chris. All right, we're going to continue on with the manager's report. Jim?
We'll go to item A, which is a quick update on the Main Street Facade Improvement Program. I'll give you a quick background on it and where we're at. There's been much discussion by residents about how nice Main Street is looking. There's been a lot of construction on it, it just seems that it's happened all at once, well, in the past month or so, and people are really starting to notice it, and they're very excited about it. So I think it's an appropriate time to just go over what the town council passed over 6 months ago, almost a year ago, actually, and why we're at where we are. So the Facade Improvement Program was designated, it was Rescue Plan Act money that was put aside by the town and voted by the town council. And on November 4th, 2024, there were grant award letters where the total funds awarded was $1,080,000. There were 19 projects funded. There were projects, 3 projects have been completed and are seeking reimbursement right now. There are 13 more projects under construction. And there were 3 projects funded but are not started. That's 3 of them. And the deadline for completion is December 31st of 2025. If you take a look at the CAF bar, that's a perfect example of what was allocated and what was spent and how nice it looks and improved the Main Street. So that's just an overview, high-level overview of where we were, where we are, and where we're going. Have any questions on that?
Any questions for Jim on this one? Go ahead.
What happens with the 3 projects that are not started and may not be completed by December 31st? What happens to the money?
Well, so just because the projects funded weren't started doesn't mean it won't be completed. They could be smaller jobs that are in the pipeline. There's really only one project that the property owner is unsure because of the cost associated with doing it, whether he will continue, and that's about a $54,000 project. So your question's a good one. So what would happen to that money? We need to expend that money. As soon as we find out that a project will not be completed and there's extra funds available, we come back to the council so you can come up with the parameters. For example, no one was eligible for fund reimbursement if they already started the project. But if we're looking to spend the additional funds, if there are any additional funds, we could open that up so that people that property owners that budgeted for a certain amount came in higher or whatever, and if there isn't an extra money available, we could open up the process again to vet whatever property owners have put in for the extra amount.
Could we put that somewhere else, like Old Mountain Field?
I do not believe we can, but I'll have to check with legal on that. It's very specific where that money could go and what it was allocated for, but I'd have to get the solicitor's office to look at that.
So there's a new business item about the boat and I don't know what it's called, the lifting thing? Yeah, the dry dock, the lifting thing. Could we shift that over? Because that's a very similar amount.
So once again,
CIP. It's the funding for Mike Stack's book thing is CIP.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I don't have an answer yet. I'll get an answer for you. I think that this money's siloed in a very specific location. So Brian, do you have an answer on whether we can reallocate that money?
So those projects were designated to the planning department through an interagency agreement. So those funds are housed and encumbered with the planning department, and they could be repurposed for planning department functions or, as the town manager mentioned, other projects within the planning department from the facade program. But they have to stay within the planning department.
So whatever planning projects we have, not the dry dock boat thing.
That's
Gotcha.
correct.
Sorry, Mike. Trying.
Jim, briefly, 13 and 14, the items for Phil's kitchen, and it says underway under there. What's the status with that now, it being Birchin Bay?
Jim, you get up. I don't know if that money was transferred to the new restaurant or not.
Yeah, so thank you. It's a good question. The grants were specific to properties, not necessarily tied to ownership. So there was a request that we handled internally, knowing the change of ownership. We were aware of the potential change in ownership through the grant application process. So again, those funds were targeted for the improvement of the building, in essence, devoid of ownership. The new ownership committed to the matching funds, which was the most important part of those projects. Again, those are 2 buildings, so each one is part of the program. So those monies transferred to new owners.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
So-
Jamie.
That's it.
So I guess the planning department will have to have a contingency for $54,000 or so, and we'll be able to pivot quickly in December, whatever that is.
We should have an answer for you fairly quickly. We're pressing the property owner, yes or no, are you going to do this project? If not, we'll come back to the council, and with your guidance, you can guide the planning department where you want it to go.
Thank you.
What are our limits under ARPA for getting the money spent?
December 31st of 2025, I believe I said? Yes.
It's in the chart for the facade program. I just wasn't sure it was the same date.
Same date.
For ARPA.
So we had the facade program listed at December 31st, 2025, and knowing there could be some slippage of some of the construction projects.
Right.
I believe the deadline is end of 2026 for all of the funds.
That's what
Again,
I'm-
if we have to reallocate it, we wanted to know we had some time.
Right, and that's what I remembered. I just wanted to check because the facade program said 25.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jim. We can continue on.
Sure. Nicole, if you could put up that item C. So this one here is just a discussion, and I'm just looking for some guidance from the council if this is something you're interested in. So there's been an unprecedented amount of agenda items on our town council agendas over the past. It's constantly going up, whether it's the town manager's report, new business, whatever. There's a lot of stuff on. It's because we're doing a lot of stuff. And I'll go over some of the things. We have a school project, unprecedented project this town's never seen the like of before, $150 million project. Affordable housing, one of your top priorities. Those projects. Selling surplus properties and, researching areas that we could get more affordable housing. The EMS building, you're making decisions on that. The Community Learning Center, Main Street improvements, we could go on and on. So there's a lot of new business items. So what I'd like to just go over is some possible revisions that we can make to the agenda to make it more efficient so that these new business items, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, get the attention they need, rather than we go through public hearings or other agenda items, and then at the end we're trying to make some decisions late in the evening, which sometimes doesn't. I think it would be best to do it while everyone's fresh earlier on. So if you look at this agenda, I'll just go over a few things so that you could consider it, give me some direction, or discount it. So the closed executive session would stay the same at 6:30 if needed. A work session, if needed, with the ability to start early if there's no closed executive session, but I think, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. I just put it out there because it came up at the last meeting, it came up at, our solicitors at, how many towns does he do? 7, 6, 7, 8?
6, 7.
Yeah, but they all start at like 7. But I think the time should be the same, whether it's 7 or 7:30 to start our town council meeting. The regular session, if we keep it, it'd be at 7:30, as is. But you'll also see something on the agenda where we don't have to have a work session. That's a request if it's not needed. And then there's another thing in there that if, all interviews have to be done at a work session. So those are adjustments we could make. If we don't need a work session, we don't have it. And if we don't have an executive session, then we start the meeting at 7:30. But this way we could get the interviews done in the beginning of the meeting and then make the appointments also at the beginning of the meeting. So if you go down to 6 and you look at that, the interviews would be in the regular body of under this proposal, this revision, would be done in the regular body of the meeting, and appointments would come earlier instead of later. So that would be one suggestion. And we've looked at other agendas from other towns and just trying to get feedback from staff. So if you look at 8, that's the consent agenda. Now, the threshold is currently $10,000, so that if it's anything under $10,000, it can be administratively approved. Anything over $10,000 goes to the council. We tried to find out when that number was made $10,000. We've traced it back to at least 17 years ago. So for at least 17 years, it's been that $10,000 figure. Once again, speaking of Mike Ursillo, most cities or towns have a $20,000 to $25,000 consent agenda limit. So is that something the council would like to raise? And all this is to improve the efficiency to keep the meeting moving quicker. Yes, Deb?
So and maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that the threshold amount was an ordinance, and if we wanted to change that, we would have to change it and have a public hearing about amounts.
There is that $10,000 threshold in the Code of Ordinances. I think the question is whether it should be on the consent agenda versus as a new business item that's not on the consent agenda. So that wouldn't require an ordinance change. In other words, the council would still see everything above $10,000, but
That's correct. Yeah, so once again, this isn't going to go in effect in 2 weeks. There has to be changes to the way our rules are done and ordinances and so forth. It's just moving forward. Is this something we want to pursue or leave as is?
So in a consent agenda, if this were raised to the $25,000 threshold, could we still extract an item?
Yes.
Okay.
My only concern with that, being typically the minority asker of those types of things, to be told no by the 4 of you, that I want to pull something off. So I'm just a little nervous about saying, could we talk about this? And then you say no.
I don't think we'd be inclined to turn that down.
Okay.
I believe we'd be open. If anyone has questions as to any items that be on a consent, open it up. I think we've demonstrated that we've done that. I don't think there have been an instance that I can think of where someone on the council requested to remove a consent agenda item so we could discuss it, and a majority turned that down. I can't recall that, so I don't think we would do that.
I've only been on the council 3 years, but it hasn't happened with me here.
Right. I've never seen it happen. That would be a real small thing.
That would be something, I would rather pilot a better agenda before we move and change all the thresholds and do that as phase 2. But
I think these are welcome ideas, Jim. I think that we all agree that we'd like to have more efficient meetings, and while I don't have full thoughts on all of the decisions, I do give you kudos for putting these forward to us to try to have a more efficient meeting.
I also would like to say that the first public comment, to limit it to only to new business, when people have other commitments, family responsibilities, people hire a babysitter to come here, or,
Well, I didn't get to that yet, but if
I know,
I could explain it, if you
but
want me to
that, if
explain
it's
it.
only limited to new business, I feel like the person who takes their time out of their day to come here and sit through, it's already 8:15, they've waited almost an hour already, and it's just, it just keeps pushing the public to the back over and over again, and then you're saying, only comment on new business, and then wait and go through everything, and then
Yeah, so
you
that
can come.
certainly is not the goal, is to push the public to the back. I mean, that it is to move most of the public forward, and I'll explain that. So I truly feel if, for example, some cities or towns on new business items, they can, residents or anyone can come up and question every new business item, and that takes a lot of time. But we looked at other locations. If you had, I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider it, a public comment limited to new business items, and then you have new business come next, which is moved up, you could probably get all the business of the town done in an hour to an hour and a half, which would then leave the town manager's report, public hearings, and then public comments, which would all be moved up because of the sufficient use of time. You'd be getting the bulk of everyone moved forward. But I totally understand the concern about, residents getting them up here. It's just a suggestion that get your feedback on.
So, and also, I would like to say that if you talk about, you might not have a question about new business until the new business item is talked about, and the public is going to be at the front of the line with that, where they may have a question about, sorry to call you out, Mike's dry dock boat lift. And if they have to talk first, they might have a subsequent question. How do they get their question answered?
And that's a good point. But also, they would have the opportunity to talk about a new business item before the topic comes up, so that maybe it could sway the town council to vote a different way or look at it in a different light. So there's no really one best way. It's just points of discussion. All right. So I'm sorry, Patty. So under new business, we bring the directors up. And I think it's a good practice. I think it can explain a lot of this stuff. But I also think that, and Deb, you gave me the suggestion today when we were talking, I think if we can put where the funds are coming from right in the agenda, that would alleviate any concerns a council member might have of, okay, are these funds budgeted? Are they coming from capital? Where are they coming from? I think we could cut down on some of the directors coming up, talking about things like a stretcher, light bars, stuff that it's just regular purchases. It's not like very in-depth purchases that the council would need. Something like a rescue that's $300,000, of course, something that's a substantial amount. So we would keep the directors as close to the vest as we could here. They would be here if there's questions by the council. But if not, you could look at it, look where the funds are coming from, and you could approve it right on the spot. That would be one area.
Jim?
Yes.
I think we should point out that every new business item that the council now gets, and anybody with access to a computer can get, there are memos attached to the agenda item
Yes.
that do already identify for the public what the source of funding is. I don't think it's a bad idea to do it in the agenda, because if you just come in and pick up a paper version,
Yes.
you'll get that.
Yeah, I agree.
But I just wanted to clarify that the public already gets that information.
I agree, and I think the agenda item with that amount right in there, right in plain English, so that people can see it, would assist
Yeah.
knowing how the council's making their decision. Now, the other thing is 11A, this started out with good intentions, but I think we're at the point now where the school building committee and the school facilities project, we could have a briefing once a month. Unless it's something like what happened tonight, where there was a discussion at the school building committee, it was something of importance, they came to me, can we put this on the agenda? And we did. So if it's just an update with nothing pressing, no decisions need to be made, you could get away with once a month briefing on that. Then the town manager's report, it used to be small, it's growing, and that's fine, but I try and get through it as quickly as possible. The public hearings, there's two options with the public hearings. Doing some research into other cities or towns, we find that you could do the public hearings on that night when they come up on the way this agenda is written, or at a certain point, you could stop the meeting in its tracks and have the public hearing at the exact moment every single time. So say you advertise public hearings 8:30 p.m. You could start the agenda going, and then if it's quicker, fine. If it's going longer, you could stop the agenda and have the public hearing at the exact time every time. It's just an option, not a neighboring town does do that. Now we come to public comments. Keep the 5 minutes, which is a generous allotted time. Many cities and towns have 3 minutes, and they hold you to it. But we have 5 minutes. I think that practice should be encouraged to stay, and I'm sure it will, knowing the 5 of you. 15 would be communications, and communications, once again, come in, they're vetted. Does the council need to take any action on an item that's coming in? If so, it goes on the agenda as communications. But then there's one we added that I'd like you to take a look at. It's town council discussion items. The town council, this is democracy in action, what everyone's seeing right here. Everyone gets a voice at the microphone. Town councils have an independent. They can say whatever they want, whenever they want, and have any discussion item that they want going on the agenda. One thing this town does do that I applaud is that no one person, whether it's a president or vice president, can remove an agenda item that a council member wants on. Some cities or towns do that, where the council president has the authority to say, no, I don't want that agenda item on, or yes, I want it on. But this council treats each member as equals, and they can put anything they want, and no one has ever been turned away in the 3.5 years I've been here to put anything on an agenda. But a lot of questions come up, a lot of discussions come up, a lot of stuff that takes time. So one thing, please take a look at is the town council discussion items. I think that we could get to that point fairly quick. We would get all the town business out of the way. The directors would be, all their questions would be asked. They would get out of here in a timely manner so they could come back at 8:30 in the morning to work. Now, all I'm asking is, council, look at this. Let's have this discussion at some point, whether it's tonight, whether you want to look at it, whether you want to read it over, try it, not try it. It's up to you. That's all I have on that item.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Okay. Item D is a review of town funds and recommendation for the potential use of these funds towards affordable housing projects as requested by Town Council Member Bergner.
So, yes, and as a partial, I don't want it to seem like I only want all of these funds to be for affordable housing. I want to understand all the funds and what they could be used if we could put them in other areas. Like we talk about whatever, the animal fund or Watson. So I think the way that my intention was in the conversation was what all the funds were, what they generate, what are the restrictions, to try to teach all of us and all future councils what's available in terms of additional funding.
And Brian and I sat down and discussed this, so just to get the high-level overview of what you're going to be looking at, he looked at all the funds. Some are restricted, some you can't take or transfer money, but some you can. So Brian, you narrowed down to 7 funds or 9 funds, but 2 at the end were not.
So I keep asking, is this, do we have this?
Yes, I left it on your, each of you have a copy.
Yeah. So I think what's challenging, go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
Never mind.
So I identified 6 funds to bring forward. Again, I wasn't sure an amount or a goal for the council, but I wanted to identify 6 funds and provide some possible funding sources for the affordable housing initiatives that the town and the town council has deemed a priority. The number 1 item is the Affordable Housing Fund, which we discussed actually at the last meeting. That fund had $490,000 in it. The next fund is the Open Space Fund. That fund has remained unchanged for a year. No new additional monies have gone into it. No funds have been expended. There's currently 1.4 million in that fund. The other item of note with the open space fund, should these funds get moved to affordable housing or another fund, the town does have $2.3 million that has been authorized and unissued in bond funds for open space. So if a project comes down the pike later and open space funds are needed, there are funds that have been authorized by the voters that have not been issued in the amount of $2.3 million. So next is the South Road School Fund. That fund currently has $302,000 in it. We have been using that fund for operational costs of the school, whether it be utilities, maintenance of the building. That's why you're seeing the unaudited balance at 302, and I'm saying potential available at 282, because we've been using roughly $20,000 for the utilities and maintenance. The one caveat I would say for this fund, I've reached out to bond counsel just to verify that we don't have any school bond funds associated within these funds. So that conversation is still ongoing. I can't imagine there would be. This is closed. Building has been closed for a long time, but I just want to get a verification on that. The next is a school improvement fund. That is Fund 428. This was a capital fund that was established before the last failed high school vote. The town put some state aid for education. When the town received state aid for education in excess of their budgeted funds, this went into this capital fund at that time. So we had some seed money for when the project was moving forward. We've since used that fund for some capital projects and for some seed money for the current high school project before we actually had a project voted on and approved. But there is approximately $170,000 in that fund. And then, as previously mentioned, that has been talked about a few times, we have the Oliver Watson Fund, which is a permanent fund that has a balance of $145,000, of which $106 is available. The balance of that, the difference between the 106 and the 145 is permanent, is the endowment amount, and that cannot be touched. So that we have $106,000 available there. Those funds have been designated per the endowment for the elderly of the town. And finally, the Walter Watson, which is a trust, which is also a permanent fund. That, of the $216,000, $175,000 is available, and those funds have been designated through the endowment for the poor and needy of the town. All total, if all funds were available, you're looking at $2.6 million.
All right, thank you, Brian.
So this isn't exactly what I had hoped to gain. So I had hoped to sort of understand the income that they generate annually, so I can't tell how much they generate and then where that interest income goes.
The only ones, I'm keeping it on this page because it has everything, but if you go to the only ones that actually earn interest right now are the Oliver Watson and Walter Watson. So on those pages, I'll go to Oliver Watson first. So they are part of the invested funds with the town's PFM asset management. So those are invested funds. They represent 0.62% of those funds. The investment is made up of almost 99% AA rated and 1.09% AAA rated. And you'll see the breakdown of how those funds are invested on the sheet. Very similar. This represents 0.62%, and the next one, the Walter Watson, represents 0.77% of the funds the town has in PFM asset management. So those are the only two that actually incur interest currently.
And Brian, is that income just accumulated, become part of the balance?
Yes.
So we don't use any of that for anything?
Terry could probably, we do use the Oliver Watson funds do get utilized by the senior center, and I'm not sure, we have used funds from Walter Watson. I'm not sure right now.
Is this something like when somebody needed a hot water heater? Okay, you're nodding.
That's correct. The Walter Watson Fund is utilized for one-time needs of community members, and it's authorized, reviewed by our Senior Services Director, along with the finance director in terms of the financials of it, but that's how those funds are spent. Electricity, utilities, rental assistance, and they're not utilized until all other avenues have been exhausted by the particular
Person, yeah.
applicants.
Okay.
So Brian, just to walk through a few of these, I guess we'll start from the back here. Walter Watson, somewhat flexible there in that the money is to be used to provide assistance to the poor and needy residents of South Kingstown. In the event we want to use some of those monies toward the creation of affordable housing, I guess that seems to fit within that.
I'm trying to, I've had some discussions with the solicitor on that, and I'm trying to find some more files. I'm sure we have more files in the office on that. I don't have that much at my fingertips right now, but I am looking for that. I would assume there's more of an explanation than is provided here, and that's what I'm looking for now in terms of the actual endowment documents.
And then as to Oliver Watson, just sort of moving through these, that one seems to be, would have to be specific to the Oliver Watson property, so any use of that fund would have to go toward there, unless it's to, could it be used for anything other than the senior center?
It has to be used for elderly services, so I don't, whether it be senior services, whether it be the senior center or senior activities, senior programs, something along those lines, yes.
So
I guess, is there anything else in town that would be toward the shelter and care for elderly town residents other than the senior center?
Well,
no.
No. All right. So it'd either have to go to Oliver Watson or the senior center, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
So St. Elizabeth's leases that other property, right? Where's Terry? Right? But we own that. The town owns that property right there on Tuckertown and Post Road or whatever.
The town owns the adult day facility. St. Elizabeth leases it for $1 a year. So
Right.
the town is actually a partner in that program, in that they do not pay rent.
Right. So could we use, when we need capital improvements there, could we be using Oliver Watson for that? Just question.
That's a good question. That there's a potential for that. I think that also would require a review of the language in the endowment, but it certainly is a senior-specific program.
Okay.
So there is some possibility.
Okay, now Brian, the school improvement fund. Now this one, what we would have to
That's
seek
their money.
court approval to be able to spend this in a different way than what's provided here?
That would be the action of the council. This was a fund that was set up by the council, and those funds have been moved in. They were excess funds that the town received for state aid that were moved into this fund to cover any expenses in advance of a high school project being approved.
When was that created?
This was in advance of the previous high school project that failed.
So in like 2017, 2018?
Yes.
So is this, or is this not limited to capital improvements related to school projects?
That is officially what this fund is designated now for. If the council can so move those funds to another.
Okay, so this one is flexible in that if we want to move it and
Yes.
spend on something else, we just have to
Correct.
act to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Was that town funds, not school funds? Even
That's
though
correct.
School funds
This
are
is
town funds?
Yep. It's a little confusing. I wish they were a little further apart. The school's capital fund is 429. The town's school capital fund is 428. I confuse the two often. But this is the town's school capital account.
Okay.
And that's because the town gets the reimbursement for projects that the school committee undertakes, and it's like
Yes.
6 months to a year
Yes.
after. I remember this.
And then,
Is that's the money that comes back to the town?
Yes.
That's where, I hear Kate saying, the money comes back on your side.
Yes.
Okay.
And Brian, the same process would go for South Road?
Yes, South Road, I believe, this is where I'm going through this with bond counsel. I believe all the revenue seeing here is from when the building had been rented after it was closed, but I'm just going through with bond counsel now to make sure none of these funds are related to school bond money. But these funds are just sitting here being utilized to maintain the building currently, and they were funds, it looks to be all funds from when the building was rented at various times since the town took it over.
Wow.
Okay. And then open space?
Open space, this is on the list because, again, it hasn't been used in a year, and it comes from the exact same funding source as affordable housing. It was parsed out from the conveyance tax from the town. And again, as mentioned, should a project come up, the town does have the unauthorized open space fund, bond funds that have not been used. So you do have that available if you pulled this money and something came up for open space.
Okay. And this is, the money in this account is such that an action by the council could use this money in a different way?
That's correct. Effectively, when the council takes action at year end for the year end transfers and you move moving money between funds, that would be a similar action here.
All right, so this is similar to when we decided to dedicate 100% of the real estate conveyance fees to the Affordable Housing Fund. This is such that if we wanted to sort of reallocate monies that are already here to something else, would be part of that same process.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So
Okay.
the school trust funds, which I know another misnomer, because that's really the guild, 90% of that 24 million is the guild.
That's correct.
There are several little funds in there. Did you look at those? One of them's like the, I can't remember. It's like a high school.
I'm going off of memory right now for those, but approximately the two that are, there are a couple that aren't being used. Obviously Wakefield School.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that one has between 40 and 80,000 somewhere in, I'm getting, there's quite a few funds in there, so I might be getting them mixed up. It's either 40,000 or 80,000. And there is one other one that is not being used right now.
Okay. So there's two smaller funds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That we have had some discussions with the solicitor on as well, in terms of how to go about those funds.
So not mentioned is the Animal Shelter Benefit Fund, right? Not highlighted?
Nope.
How do we use that fund?
That gets used, so some of the money in that fund is through donations to the shelter, and it gets used for, Chief could probably speak to it better than I, but it gets used for expenses that are not covered by the operating budget, as well as hardship cases for cases at the shelter.
So that has $522,000 in it, so that's why I was curious where the interest income on some of these funds goes, and are we using at least all of the interest income in operational expenses?
Not all funds, as you're seeing here, like the open space, for example, I have that on the screen, that is not accruing interest. That rolls into the general fund, so that large amount that you see where we were exceeded budget for the general fund, animal shelter, I believe, as well.
So so you're saying the interest from the open space goes to the general fund?
That's correct.
Instead of back into open space?
That's correct.
Who sets that policy?
That's been set up long before anybody current in the finance department.
What about the funds for the animal shelter? Are those restricted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we couldn't just...
Again, because we'd have to parse out. I mean, a good chunk of that is through donations and things of that nature, so.
Right. My feeling, and this is only my feeling, there's 4 other people here, but I feel like some of the interest income for the animal shelter should go into operational expenses, because my ultimate goal is to try, as we're looking at a tax increase for the school to come a couple more times, to try to mitigate that impact to the community, and making sure that some of the interest income on some of these funds gets translated into operational expenses makes sense to me. Might not make sense to other people, but we need to, it's already nearly October, they're already working on the CIP and all of these things. We can talk about how we would want to see that interest used to benefit our fellow residents.
I definitely would, especially, would like to see them in interest-bearing accounts. So the open space fund is not in an interest-bearing account?
It
It
is.
is.
Or it
It's-
is?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think we have, unless we
Right.
have bond funds that dictate that they can't be in an interest-bearing, all funds are in an interest-bearing.
Okay.
Yes.
But the interest goes to the general fund, so
Right.
that will stay fixed. Is that something that we would want, or we would want to change it? It's
Well, I think we have, certain goals that are expensive as a council. We really want to see certain projects done. But what I understand you're saying is rather than using that revenue, or let me just clarify, are you saying rather than using that money, like I sort of added up the things that we could easily take, and that would be 766,000 towards something like at Oliver Watson, for instance. So I'm just not clear. Are you saying that you would rather take the interest from those and rather than putting it into the general fund, sort of maybe buff up our ability to proceed faster with the affordable housing? Or are you suggesting that the interest should be used to offset any future tax increases?
I think all of it is a conversation about where we should understand where that goes. I didn't realize until Brian said right now, the interest income on the open space fund doesn't grow that fund. It grows the general fund.
Right.
So we need, a baseline understanding of where the money goes as it grows, and then we as a council would agree on where we would want it to go.
And we can change, or any council
Yes.
can change that as
Right.
things go and be more nimble to respond to what our needs are. So sounds like a good discussion that we're having.
It's just education, so that we all understand that there are
Right.
funds, we can think about that and where it goes.
Brian, can I
Right.
just clarify something here? Now, when we talk about that, the interest income that is generated on the assets in the open space fund that is going to the general fund, that's reported as revenue on our budget, and that revenue is applied against expenses on our budget, operating expenses. So when
That's
we
correct.
say it's not being used against operating expenses, it is.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you trying to say?
No, I'm just trying to
No,
clarify
no,
that even though the interest income is not becoming accumulated as part of the open space fund and it's going to the general fund, it is being used to fund general operations of the town,
That's correct.
showing up as revenue on our budget, and then it's used against operating expenses in our budget. So we are using the income generated on the assets of the open space fund to fund operating expenses of the town. So I'm just trying to clarify that so we all understand. So it's not just sitting in the unassigned fund balance, it's
That's correct.
actually used
Yes.
in our budget.
It's one of the things you sort of do really awesome things with the figures, and I'm always surprised and delighted at budget, or I mean, not delighted, but you do a really good job at sort of making all the wheels stay on the bus. So
Thank you.
But considering that thought and what Councilwoman Bergner has said, I think there is potential to look at funds that are accumulating income and
Yep.
potentially, instead of accumulating that in a certain fund, look at the possibility of using that income to pay operating expenses. I don't know if there's a lot of options out there for funds that we could do that, but it's worth exploring.
Sure. Yeah, I took this I thought the goal was to identify funds for affordable housing, but I can certainly.
No,
come
I
back with-
believe that was the goal. And I
Okay.
think this is helpful information.
It was part of it.
Okay.
And it was also to increase, and I think everyone learned some new information that they're going to take away as we head into the budget. I think it's hard to understand the budget and the town's responsibilities in one budget season or one cycle or two cycles or three or four. there's always new pieces that you learn. Like, this is a good example. I didn't realize the interest went there, and I see what you're saying, Rory. The interest from this fund, the open space fund, goes to the general, and then we take some of that general and put it towards the budget. I get it. It travels and it comes back to the people. But I'm just trying to say, like, are there other funds? Are we making sure that we're not growing the animal rescue fund when we could be using that to offset expenses and then ultimately help the community? You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm just trying to increase everyone's understanding of the finances. Some of you are smarter than I on that.
So, go ahead, sorry.
I'm happy to learn about the Walter Watson Trust Fund, and I think the idea of that having been established by a member of the Watson family to help people that older people that are in need of a one-time expense. I think that is something I would never want to get rid of, because that's just a really wonderful thing that Walter Watson and actually the whole family has done with that property. So I definitely want to make sure we honor and always. I see that there's 40,000 is considered non-spendable, so that we wouldn't be able to. Nobody would ever be able to deplete that.
Those are considered permanent funds, and those are the amounts of the original endowments that cannot be spent. That's correct.
Okay.
So I think we need to keep this handy, especially when we get more down the road with potential decision-making related to use of the vacant town buildings. So once we sort of move further in the process of the RFQ, RFI, and get some more refined cost scope, then I think this is going to be useful, but this is certainly helpful. And
thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And the more we can get about funds before the budget season is always helpful. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Jim, we got a few more.
Item E is an update on the potential affordable housing projects located at the 3 municipally owned properties, South Road School, Wakefield Elementary School, Alva Watson property, as requested by Councilmember Bergner. So I will give you an overview on that, and Jamie Rabbit's here to answer any specifics if you have those questions. So in July of 2025, an RFP was prepared and circulated for hope that we could move this along. We had a meeting with Secretary Goddard from the state on July 17th. She suggested we were premature in circulating this RFP, and that it would limit us or eliminate us from getting any type of state funding or federal funding if we circulated it in the manner that it was drafted. She suggested that the town utilize grant funding or other sources to refine the development costs associated with utilities and infrastructure needed at each site, which will improve responses of anticipated RFPs or an RFI to be issued by the town. So basically, we don't know what it's going to cost for these. Very rough numbers. There's a $5 million, $6 million to bring infrastructure improvements to South Road School, but we don't know those numbers. So the grant funds applied for by planning in July of 2025, July 29th of 2025, and the award announcement is going to come by the end of October, is a $75,000 request for the Oliver Watson property on a pipeline development program, and South Road School, a $100,000 study for additional engineering and a study on the infrastructure cost through the Municipal Technical Assistance Program. So that's where we stand with those two. With Wakefield Elementary, there's no new developments. One thing that staff is looking at for possible consideration for the town council to look at is, do you want to accelerate taking down the Wakefield Elementary School? Take it down and plant grass till you figure out what you want to do with it. And we do have some funds we're researching whether that's available. Of course, that would be a major policy decision by the council. If you think about it, the South Road School's been there since '07. And Wakefield Elementary's been vacant for at least 2 years. So is this something you would want to do until we could figure it out? So we will bring that forward on Wakefield Elementary within a meeting or two on cost and time frame and where the money would come from if the council decided to do that. So do you have any specific questions on that topic? Okay.
Nope. All right, thank
All
you,
right.
Jim.
Council Vice President Marin, what's that?
The reason why I wanted to bring it up is because a number of residents have come frequently to discuss Wakefield School, and they're upset, there's a petition, and people come and speak, and we don't really respond. So I wanted to provide the plans from April so that people could see the overlay of where the school is and what it looks like, but also just sort of, we're not that far along on that project, or if at all, right? So when people say we're going to sell it to a developer, what would be the answer to that, Jim?
The answer is no.
Right.
So I don't follow social media like many do, but there are a lot of rumors and innuendo out there, and it kind of takes its own life. And I totally understand that. That's the world we live in. But no, the town is not trying to do a backroom deal with anyone. The town's not trying to sell it to one developer. We're not trying to give anyone an edge on anything. Wakefield Elementary right now is at a standstill. What do we want to do with it? So this is something that we can resurrect and start maybe discuss what your intentions are for the building.
Well, I would love, I mean, I want to plant a garden there next year, so.
You want to plant a farm or a garden?
I mean, I'd like to plant a larger garden, but,
Okay.
So,
I mean.
I just want to, can you pull up that attachment?
Sure.
To just focus on Wakefield School, just so we can, for 2 seconds, just keep, because that seems to be the parcel that people are most engaged on at this moment in time. And so I went back and looked at the Union Studios presentation from April 2025.
I actually did too.
And can you find it, Jamie? So it's, I don't know what.
If you give me a moment,
Yeah.
I should be able to pull it up.
Okay, sorry. It is on the attachment. It got added today. Thank you. So it's curious to me because just the size of the school now overlaid with the two buildings. I just wanted to put it up there because someone asked me, they said, how big are the two buildings versus the size of the school? And so I just wanted to just take this moment to show what the proposed looking thing that it looks like is. Because there is, and then how much land, or according to this, it says the school takes just up 3 acres. Is that correct? You could just go to the agenda because now it's linked, Jamie, instead of going through all this. Is that it? No, that's July.
This has the information you're looking for.
Okay.
And just bear with me. Just
There you go. One of them. So we were looking at 2 buildings? Because the April one.
Yeah. And you're saying it's linked right now on the agenda?
Mhm. Nope, you went. Town manager's report. you go.
The last page shows.
Well, the last page, the last 2 pages. Yep. You're right, Nicole. It's the second to the last page that I was interested in. So, right, up one slide from that. If you look at the one,
You want to go up one more?
up one more, sorry, the one with the red, that's the existing school, and it's the footprint. And then underneath it, it looks blue and looks yellow. I don't know if the public can see this. Those are the 2 buildings. So the next page down, the next slide down, shows the buildings and the parking, which is much less than what's currently being absorbed. I know they're not here, but there is that huge chunk along the riverfront that's the connector to the bike path and preserving the park. I think, I don't want to speak for community people at all, but I think that their logic is they are aware of all of that, but they don't want any of that. They don't want either building, they just want all of it to be a park, and I guess maybe some parking. To which, you know, that's the conundrum where we're at, is that they feel, I guess, we're going to sell it to a developer, which is not true, but we're also taking up less space and giving more park back to the park. So.
All right. Any questions? Go ahead.
Just one additional comment. There does seem to be some discussion or confusion or misinformation on social media that the entire park is part of this. And from day one, the existing Saugatucket Park has never been part of this. The parcel that the school is on has been subject of discussion for housing, but it has never been about taking Saugatucket Park.
Right. I just feel like we don't ever have a conversation with the people who care very much about this project. So I just wanted to make sure that the slides were up, that people could see what the school took up in terms of area and parking, what's proposed in terms of just 2 buildings, and all that additional, which you can't see, is new, it says new playground and connector to the bike path, right? I can't really read it. So there is an increase in the size of the park and a reduction in the size of the square footage of the buildings, increased parking, or some more parking, and a playground. But I think we just need to figure out how to have dialogue with the community.
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jamie.
Next item F is an update on the title search and survey of town easements for shore access as requested by the Council Vice President Marin. Our harbor master will give a brief overview of that discussion.
Good evening. As you folks are aware, you've authorized some capital improvement funding to clarify survey rights of way to the shoreline. We're currently working on that. The Charlestown Beach Road project was the marquee project, and we had to do some reconciliation work on the old plat maps versus the new plat maps to clarify some of the information before we could put out the bid. One of Carol Baker's parting gifts was working with Wendy and myself to get that done. We have that done, so I anticipate we will get out to bid this fall, that project, and as many as we can follow behind that as funding allows.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Can you just sort of fill in a few details, what it is in later in the fall that's going to be put out to bid?
Sure. So it will be one of the major obstacles with clarifying Charlestown Beach Road public access, the town-owned parcels of property that we know was that the road itself, we don't know if the road is actually in the right-of-way proper. So we first need to find out where the road is, and then from there, we can work off of the road to clarify the public-owned spaces, rights of way. There's a couple of parcels of land that the town owns. One of the neat things when we did this exercise was we actually uncovered the long lost, if you will, CRMC rights of way. There's 3 rights of way out on the beach out there that nobody seems to be able to delineate, and we have that information from that research that hopefully will help as we move forward with the actual surveying, so we can pinpoint them on land where people can see them.
And I know Charlestown Road is difficult anyway. I've walked it from tide to tide and sandstorm or snowstorm.
Yes.
It gets difficult to identify where you are.
Yeah, so it does change. And so the goal of this entire project moving forward is that each location in town, you know, our goal in conjunction with the Waterfront Advisory Commission is to both survey and monument, so that any visitor to those locations can clearly identify what is public and what is private.
So aside from Charlestown Beach Road, are there other easements that have been identified by the commission?
Yes, so there are a lot. So we have a list A and a list B, which is located in the harbor management plan, which is currently being reviewed. This is long going, but it's up for renewal with CRMC. The list A are rights of way that we know definitively are town rights of way. Now you can see the description and you can see the issues that they've uncovered at those locations, but when you go visit them, it may not be readily apparent. You know, in some cases it might be a 60-foot right of way and there's only a 10-foot wide path, right? So it's not readily apparent where the boundaries are, but you can access the shore in those locations. Then list B are the ones that require title work and, you know, legal work to find ownership history and uncover details that are not readily apparent. So those will require more work. So the Waterfront Advisory Commission is to tackle list A first so that everyone can visit those locations. They've also been working with the planning department to come up with a web-based program that you can visit and see that information in real time. So that's all ongoing work to try and better clarify all of that for the public.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mike, thanks for doing the hard work on keeping public access public, and this council has been, it really wants to be supportive of that work, so thank you for the update on this.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll keep pushing as long as we can. So appreciate your support with funding and all the other support you provide.
Thank you, Mike.
The last item on the town manager's report was also submitted by Council Vice President Marin. It's a report on any potential effects on the school building project due to Federal Reserve action lowering its benchmark federal funds rate. I'll get right to the punchline after talking to Brian. The answer is short term, it would. You know, went down a quarter point last week, go down another quarter point, two quarter points by January is what's expected, and more by next year. That would assist with the bond anticipated notes on what our rate would be. Long term, we would not have such a dramatic effect, but it would be offset by the $2 million we bring in revenue each year because we are getting a high interest rate, so we would lose the revenue side. So what we would gain on payable, we'd lose on the revenue side. So I'll let Brian get into that. That's right to the end of his.
Yes, so as Jim mentioned, the Fed's action does have a direct correlation with short-term borrowings, and that will impact the town's next bands issuance. It will not have an impact on the town's bands issuance from June 2025. Those have been issued already, and they are not callable. Long-term bonds, if the rates do go down, you do have an ability to refinance them in essence. You can't do that with bands. But that will have we'll see how many times the Fed does drop between now and we issue round 2 of the bands, but that will have a direct correlation in the interest rate the town will receive. But as Jim mentioned, the other side of that is the investment income of the town, which the town's, approximately 71% of the town's cash on hand is, whether it be CDs or short-term investments, cash savings, checking accounts, things of that nature. Those interest rates will likely be going down in those accounts, so revenues will be going down as well. And those have been a driving force for the town's surpluses from operations in recent years. So that we will have to, the town will have to be cognizant of that as we get into the next budget cycle. And again, as Jim mentioned on the last page, they will play a role in the long-term rates, but that is more the investment potential of the town, how the borrowers are feeling at that time for long-term borrowings.
Thank you. I would ask Brian's presentation, and in fact the others too, the facade improvements program and the school building presentation be attached to the minutes.
Hey, sorry. Brian, a few questions here. Just want to sort of bring some clarity. So year one of the bond anticipation note issuance, we will not see an effect, but we will see an impact in year two.
Yes.
And that impact will be reduced interest expense.
That's correct.
But it will be offset by reduced interest income because a large portion of our cash holdings are invested in short-term investments.
That's correct.
So we'll see the impact will sort of be potentially net zero.
I don't think it's going to be net zero. I think we're going to be fine. Again, we've seen very large, last year, for example, I think we took in, round numbers, $2 million in interest, and I think our budget was $700,000. So we're not going to run as of a large of a surplus on this because we knew sooner or later it fluctuates and it wasn't going to come down. So we're not going to not make our budget, I don't think, from what we're seeing in the rate reductions, but we're not going to, I don't think, if the rates continue to come down like we're anticipating, I don't think we're going to see these large surpluses.
Okay, but we won't see as much of a impact from the reduced revenue, from reduced interest income because the interest expense will be reduced.
That's correct.
All right. Got it. Thank you, Brian. All right. That's it. Thank you, Jim. All right, it's now going to bring us to public comments. At this point, anyone in the audience who wishes to speak, I invite you to come on up. We just ask you to introduce yourself. We're going to limit you to 5 minutes. When you begin speaking, that clock will begin counting down from 5. We ask you to use it to help gauge yourself.
Jim O'Neill, Wakefield. About a year ago, I pleaded with you, the council, and warned you to go slow regarding approvals of affordable housing applications, only because I saw everything coming so fast, so quickly, and developers can move a whole lot faster than planning boards and zoning boards and town councils can operate. I guess I'm looking for a moratorium here from the planning board on anything coming in after tonight. And I know you can't make that decision. But let me give you an idea why I'm so concerned here. Let me just add up some of these things. South County Commons, we have 75 units currently under appeal. On District 8, that were going to be a mix of market and leases. 104 units, 252 unit buildings each, probably would be all lease. Holly Lane, 12 units, 9 market, 3 affordable. Champaign Heights, Rhode Island Housing, 15 units currently, which I really believe that change needs to be made, but 35 proposed units with regarding workforce housing, especially when we get no property taxes currently from Champaign Heights. I don't know who's going to pay the taxes for all the children coming to our schools, and we've been through this before. And I'm really concerned that the Rhode Island Housing is scaled back to 23 larger buildings from 34, 7 buildings down to 6, yet the number of apartments are still the same. Now we're going to have just high rises there. Very confusing. I think you ought to do the 52 units only. South Road, we've had huge infrastructure cost, plus the 25 units of a mix of affordable and market rate. Watson Farms, 15 possible mix, market and affordable. Wakefield School, which frankly will never be resolved. I mean, I say never, but it won't be resolved till after next year's election, knowing that there are about 750, 800 folks who want it to remain a park. And this other monster, this loft on Fairgrounds Road, 311 units. We can't lose more industrial sites. We need that as an industrial site, not for this program that's coming before us, the loft of Fairgrounds. Absolutely nuts. There's a slew of other applications here. Main Street, 35 homes, all market. Saugatucket, another 20. We've got another 100 units in the mix here for both market as well as we're drowning. We're absolutely drowning with this. And I pleaded with you last year, pick on one of the town owns, a Watson Farm, find the money for the South Road, do one, see what this community is going to look like. But just with everything I just gave you, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of leased units. Very little purchases, very little affordability here. You can't buy a home, so that's just boosting rents because everybody has to go to the rental market. Yikes, it's brutal, absolutely brutal. But I'm asking you to go slow, please. Pick one of these. You can do it. You heard funds tonight. You can put some money towards these things. Pick one. Do the Watson, do the South Road, do the 52 units at Champaign. But man, just take a look at what the planning and the planning department have to work with here. It's incredible what's coming at them. And we're not helping them out at all here. And then put together 2 or 3 good ideas, like no more of this one size fits all. Fix the language of that 5 unrelated people. My Lord, I don't know who wrote that thing. Fix that. There's some things that our legislature can fix the 1st of January, but we need to put together 2 or 3 ideas. And I really think when I brought up Westerly to you last week, you've seen what's Narragansett going through. Gosh, let's step to the plate here and ask the General Assembly to give us some latitude here on what's demanded of planning, zoning, and of course the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Sorry to be hoarse, but I spent yesterday afternoon at Foxborough. A game we should have won 35-7, and we lose 21-14.
I didn't see you there, Jim. I don't know, you must have had much better seats than me. Jim brings up just a good point. In the spring, we talked about putting a resolution into the General Assembly before they start their legislative session about the school funding formula and transportation. Remember, we said we wanted to get ahead, we put ours in that we drafted and approved in like April or May. So can we direct the staff to write that resolution so that we can take it for consideration and later in the fall? We don't need to take a vote, but can we direct staff to do something?
Well, we got to add it to the agenda to discuss this. We're
We
just
do?
kind of...
No, we did. We wrote one, I wrote one, and we all approved it in the spring, and then we said we wanted to relook at it again.
I think we should add this to the agenda if you want to talk about this further.
Okay, well, we don't have to, we can add it to next week.
All right.
It's fine. I'll remember.
All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Anybody to come on up? All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move down to item 10, public hearings. We're going to take item C first. We're going to move through that very quickly. Chief Moynihan, come on up. Item C is a public hearing continued from September 8, 2025, relative to proposed amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 10-52, prohibited at any time as follows. This essentially changes the time period by which parking is allowed on Old North Road in front of Christ the King Church.
Yes, and it shortens the distance, so we're restricting it to that 200 feet north of Fortin Road and then 200 feet south of Carriage Lane. That was the added language from the last meeting.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
I just wanted to add, I thought we were going to be doing A, but with respect to this, I'm going to abstain for the same reasons I did last time.
All right. Amy Goins, I believe that we closed the public hearing at the last meeting. Is that correct?
Wasn't at the last meeting, I'm sorry.
Yes, you did.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have to vote.
Any questions for the chief, or do I hear a motion on item 10C?
Can you just tell me again, I know what we're changing, we're reducing, but
Yes.
what was the impetus to change this? Because you didn't want parking all the way down Fortin Road?
So originally, we had proposed restricting to have no parking at all on Old North Road, not on Fortin Road, but going that whole stretch there because of the new pavement. We are making the adjustments for just the area right in front of the church during those specific times of church.
Okay.
Motion to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Motion to approve item 10C.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to approve. We got a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes 4-0 and 1 recusal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We're also going to move to item 10B. That's a public hearing continued from September 8, 2025, relative to proposed amendments to the town's zoning ordinance, Article 5, supplementary regulations, Section 502.7, cottage community, as shown on Exhibit 2 attached to your 2. Nicole, I believe we closed the public hearing with respect to this at the last meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right. Any questions for the planning director on this one? We had some discussion as to whether to sunset this ordinance, whether to not sunset. Based on how we were at that time, I think we were feeling a sunset makes sense. I think if we are to sunset, I think 3 years probably makes sense. I believe with the history of this ordinance, Jamie, it was started as 1 year sunset, then after that it went a 2-year sunset, and now it has expired and we're considering putting it back on the books.
Correct, and the planning board made a recommendation to you to not adopt a sunset provision.
So I feel like this is an important one to bring back to whoever sits on the council, because if it goes sideways, it'll naturally come forward and we can make adjustments, or whoever sits at this table can make adjustments. And I would support a 3-year sunset. So.
I would as well. I think that this cottage ordinance is something that hopefully our planning department has been telling us that folks are interested in, but I think a sunset is a wise decision for us, especially with the new state laws. So I'm in favor of a 3-year sunset.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve item 10B with a 3-year sunset.
To conclude what, July 20, whatever? Do you have
July-
to provide a date?
It's September 22nd, so why don't we say December 31st, 28?
Yeah, fine with me.
December 31, 2028. It's a little over 3 years.
Because it's the intention of this council in about 2.5 years, whoever sits on this council, to make sure that it's working as intended or needs adjustment. And I know we could take it up sooner, but this naturally puts it in front of the council at one more time.
Yeah, no, I thank you. The most important thing to us and the planning board was getting it back on the books.
Agreed.
I second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? I have a question, Jamie. What areas in town while this ordinance was in effect, what areas of town were
Included?
included in this cottage zoning?
So the R10 and R20, the R10 represents about 1,900 properties, and the R20, I think, is 1,300 to 1,600 properties. So.
Does it include Oliver Watson?
No, that's
No, Oliver Watson is not in the R10 or R20.
But to the extent Oliver Watson was made up of lots that satisfy R10 or R20, it would be cottage zoning eligible.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Well, just one thing. As this comes along, this cottage zoning, you can have up to 8 units on an acre, but you don't own your spot. So it's basically like 8 little separate condos or something.
I mean, that would be an ideal situation for elder housing, I think.
I agree, but it's not going to create home ownership, right?
But then the people that are moving out of their homes will be able to sell their homes to younger families, and then they'll still have a place, like.
I understand. I'm hopeful that someone tries it. I'm hopeful.
We really hope that someone tries it. I mean, I do.
I mean, I grew up in a half acre in East Petunic, so, I mean, that's...
Did you?
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Jamie. It's now going to move us to public hearing item A. Public hearing continued from September 8, 2025, relative to proposed amendments to the town zoning ordinance, Article 5.5 rental dwellings, as shown on Exhibit 1 attached to your 2. Going to go to Amy Goins, solicitor on this.
Well, I know that at your last meeting, you had some discussion about the fee, and you requested the solicitor's office to look at some language, but I think we need a council consensus on what option you want. So right now, it's drafted as a registration fee of $100 for each rental unit. And I think there was concern about the impact that to owners who own properties with multiple dwelling units. So the options are, you could keep it as it's drafted, a flat fee per dwelling unit. You could do it as a fee for a property, regardless of how many units are on the property. You could cap fees for a single property, and or you could scale the fees. For example, properties with 1 to 4 units would pay $100, 5 to 9 would pay $200, 10 plus units would pay $300, or whatever the council thinks are appropriate. The numbers are, of course, up to you, but I think we need some consensus from the council on how you want to approach the fee.
All right.
When we had discussed this at the last meeting, and I asked Mike to come up with language, that was part of the concern and feedback that I had gotten from business members in the community was, and there's always concern about any fee, but Jim had made the argument, and I think compellingly, that in order to have the registration, we have to have funds to administer it, number one. But if you have a duplex, it's not necessarily that much more burdensome than a single-family home. If you have 10 units plus, that makes more sense, that there would be more documentation, more filing, more work for the town to have to do. So that's why I had suggested 1 to 4 be $100, 5 to 9 be $200, and then 10 and up $300. And this is our first effort at doing this. That may not always be the case. It doesn't have to be set in stone. We may want to do something different later, but I think that's a little bit more equitable for the people who are in the business.
So that's an interesting proposal. I think that if we're going to scale it and have 1 to 4, 5 to 8, et cetera, that kind of scale, then I would propose lowering the initial, if you have a 1 to 4, to $50 as opposed to $100. If you're renting out to someone already, $100 a year will make a difference, and so I think saving the renters $50, where we know that the property owners are going to put it down to the renters, right? So, and if you're renting, you're probably not as affluent as someone as a property owner. So, my suggestion, councilors, is if we're going to do what Vice President Marin said, 1 to 4, then I would lower that rate to $50 and scale that the larger property owners to a higher rate.
So I'd like to have a discussion about, long-term rentals versus short-term rentals. I think we want to encourage people to extend long-term leases to people, and from that perspective, I think we want to make it more, I don't know if beneficial is the right word, but if we're going to charge somebody to extend long-term housing, and especially if some of it is affordable, I think we want to sort of reward that type of behavior whereas with the short-term rental, that's not what we're looking for. So it feels to me that should be more expensive than renting long-term.
I concur.
I agree. I think incentivizing a long-term, a yearly rental would it may not change what people want to do. People can do whatever they want with their property. But I think two things. I think if you register with the state, you should either register at a very reduced rate in South Kingstown, because we want people to do it. We don't want them to say, catch me if you can, and prove that I'm renting it in the summer or for 2 weeks or whatever it is. And then I think you're correct. The yearly rentals are what we want. I even think perhaps if you have a yearly rental, you probably should be looking at your own homestead exemption, because you are providing a year-round home to someone else.
At least a tax credit, like if it costs you $100 to register it, then you should get $200 in your taxes.
So ultimately, we're at this place of a public hearing where we should have probably had a work session and sort of brainstormed a whole bunch of nuances that would have come out had we had a work session. We would have heard from the Tower Hill Landing staff. They could have participated, and we could have, we certainly don't want to charge them $14,000 to register their property. That wasn't our intention, right? But it's not our intention. I think our intention is to collect the information. So how do you incentivize people to register? Well, if you register for the state, it's free in South Kingstown. So they'll get it, they'll just have to show proof of some registry, which makes sense to me. I hear Jim with administrative costs, but I don't know $50 or $100. I don't really know what the work is associated with maintaining a registry really is. So.
And I think that what we're trying to do here is figure out how we can implement a homestead exemption for next year, right? And this rental registry is going to help us get to that point. And I would agree with you that we're trying to incentivize year-long rentals, long-term rentals, as opposed to short-term investment properties that we see happening everywhere, but more and more in South Kingstown. So I think that's the incentive here.
There's lots of ways, like for every lease, it's a fee, right? So if you only have one lease, you're paying one fee. If you have 10 leases, because you have an academic year rental and 8 weeks in the summer, it's a different, we just didn't work it through enough, but here's where we are. So I personally don't feel like I'm ready to vote on anything related to this. I think getting the information from the public is important. It doesn't make a homestead exemption. It sort of informs if one is even possible. And I don't really have enough information to even get out of the unsure spot on a homestead exemption.
All right, I have a few thoughts, sort of responses to some of the discussion here. We talked about incentive to register. I think the incentive is built into the potential ordinance in itself, and that there's a deterrence aspect. In the event that you don't register by a certain time, you incur additional fees. That's why those additional fees are there, to encourage compliance. Otherwise, if we don't have that deterrence aspect, then it really becomes a choice of the property owner. Do I register or not? There's no deterrence type aspect. Why would I register? So I think it's important to include that. As to differing fees for short-term and longer-term type rentals, the ordinance is going to require some work if we want to differentiate there. I think we have the authority to charge different fees under an ordinance. Do we, Amy Goins?
Our office has sent various memos to this council regarding short-term rental regulation. I believe some, if not all of those memos, were attorney-client privileged. If one of the options the council wants to consider is fee differentiation between short-term and non-short-term rentals, I would probably communicate that to the council in a confidential memo.
Okay, if we decided to waive that privilege now by asking the question to answer on the record, would you do that?
I would.
Would you advise against that?
I would advise against that.
Okay.
What was the question?
The question was about our authority to create differing fees, one for short-term rentals, one for long-term rentals, under a rental registration ordinance. So maybe there's challenges to that.
Yep.
That also would require different defining terms in this ordinance. I feel like if we do that, it potentially becomes difficult to administer, because then you potentially have landlords who rent during the summer, various short-term rentals, and then rent during the school year. which I would guess, however we would define that, would be not be considered short-term and potentially be subject to a lower fee. So I think we add these nuances, it becomes very difficult to administer. As to the tiering of fees, 1 to 4 a certain fee, 4 to 8 certain fee, beyond, I'm open to that. If that does make it equitable or more equitable, maybe. I don't know the makeup of the town such that I don't know how many landlords own how many certain units such that it would be equitable. I have no idea. I think part of the purpose of this ordinance is to allow us to gather data, help, not be a necessity for, but help in, finding tax relief to the year-round residents, help us, find out what is happening at these rentals that would be different as to, quiet use and enjoyment of property than, year-round residents. And I think we're really not going to know any of this information until we enact a rental registration. And just a little background, this council, I believe about a year ago, maybe a little longer, we passed a short-term rental registration. Subsequently, there was a Superior Court decision deciding that Narragansett's short-term rental registration was unconstitutional. They didn't have the authority to do it. It's preempted by the state. We then suspended our rental registration ordinance, returned any monies that were paid to the town for anyone who registered, then learned that Exeter had passed a rental registration that has been upheld. They had the authority to do it through their zoning ordinance. We then worked with our solicitor to find a way to get a rental registration in front of us that had merit, we had the authority to pass, that would be upheld in any challenge, and here we are sitting in front of it. So I think even if we're not ready to pass it tonight, if we have some questions, I think this has been a priority of ours to get this done over the finish line. But if we're not comfortable now, I encourage us to work out the kinks. But I do think this is important for us to really gain an understanding of the makeup of the housing in our town. And I don't see any other way we're going to understand the makeup other than doing this. So that's some thoughts that I have.
Good thoughts, Mr. President. I'm glad that this was done in a way that it would be upheld in court if it was ever challenged. And I think that we do have some questions tonight between councilors on what the best decision is. What I don't want to do is have this fall through the cracks and get pushed meeting after meeting after meeting. And so if we're going to either continue discussing it tonight without passing or not passing it, or if we're going to work out the kinks in the next meeting or so, I would propose that we put a time limit on what meeting we're going to kick this out to, so we can have this done by, at the very least, the end of October.
I'd like to echo that. One of the concerns that I have is we're running out of time. The way this is written calls for filing by December 31st. We're now at the end of September, and we have 2 meetings a month. The better part of valor, like I said before, whatever we pass doesn't have to be written in stone and can be amended later. This is our first effort at getting this actually implemented. I have no problem with your suggestion about the lower fee as the base. And Rory's correct, there are incentives there to encourage owners to comply. I think we need to do something.
I like what Councilwoman Bergner said about, God, I forgot what I was going to say now. It's getting
The
too late.
registry at the state?
Yeah, the registry of the state, if we can confirm that, or if people bring in proof that they've registered with the state, then that's all they need to do. And I also, can we just change some of the things on this? You know, like are we really looking to charge $100 for each long term? Or do we need to change all of it rather than just sort of
I feel like we need to continue this public
Yeah, we
hearing
do. We
because
can't
Mike was
just-
here, and I think we made some adjustments, and we're not posting the notice, and there were some recommended changes from the planning board, but
Yeah.
I don't see them there unless,
If
We
if
should
you choose to
continue.
continue it, then I would like to suggest that council looks at the different short-term rental versus long-term rental fee structure for the next meeting.
I think we need also proposed language, whether it's the multiple units or registering with the state either gets it for free, or if it's $50, you get 25. I don't care. I think it's more about, we want people, if it passes, and I have no idea, we want people to know what the data is. We want to know who has a rental and who's not. I don't necessarily think everyone will comply, and I don't know how you'd ever figure out who didn't, you know? I mean, you're basically, people who are businesses, right? But the moms and the pops who might, rent it out for a couple of weeks, will you get them? Probably not.
Amy Goins, question. What are the requirements for registering with the state?
So that there's a couple different registrations that you could be thinking about or that could work in conjunction with this ordinance. One is short-term rental registration, that's required. Two is, I believe there's a rental registry now related to lead enforcement.
That's correct.
So that's another source of information. Three, and regarding your concerns about potential compliance, you could ask the town manager about the Narragansett experience with this ordinance, because Narragansett has had this ordinance on the books for several years. And in Narragansett, it functioned, I think, mainly as a tool to help that municipality enforce its unrelated persons ordinance, which is now on hold due to another Superior Court decision. But I think if the council is looking to fold in some kind of short-term rental, either distinction or regulation into this, our office will have some advice to the council in writing on this, on that aspect.
All right, thank you, Amy. So I just want to sort of clarify, if we provided some sort of reduced rate to those who have already registered with the state, sounds like we would be providing reduced rates to short-term tenant-type landlord-tenant activities, which I don't think is what we want to encourage. So that's something to think about here. The rental registration at the state level is only short-term rentals. So if we're giving some sort of credit or reduced rate to those landlords who register with the state, those are the ones that are doing short-term rentals. So we're giving a reduced rate to them and charging a larger rate to year-round. I don't think that's what we're trying to do. But anyway, this is a public hearing. If anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this, I invite you to come on up.
We didn't close it. We didn't close this one, right?
No. We just ask that you introduce yourself, and we're going to limit you to 5 minutes.
And just for the council's information, I refreshed my memory on the rental registry. So that did go into effect about a year ago under state law. All owners of rental dwellings have to register with DOH. And that's intended to make it easier for the state to enforce requirements related to lead,
And those are only for houses built after a certain year? Am I correct on that?
That I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to the council with the specifics on that. But that is another potential source of information for the town to the extent that you're looking to adopt this ordinance to gain data about which dwellings are rental dwellings. We can look into that and get that information to the council.
All right, thank you, Amy. All right. Perhaps a motion to continue this public hearing to the first meeting in October 14, I believe.
Second. Is that a motion? Did you make that motion?
I'll make the motion to continue the public hearing to October 14th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just one quick question. So, congratulations. So this ordinance, Amy, if we pass this ordinance, could we come back to this ordinance and add short-term rental, changes to it?
If you enact this ordinance in its current form and then later the council wants to change it, yes, you could do that with the public hearing. So you can always change an ordinance once it's adopted.
All right.
All right, any other discussion?
It would take a long time because you have to do a discussion item that we vote on, order of notice, then we have to advertise. It's months.
Fortunately, Counselor, we're used to spending a long time on Mondays here, so we'll be okay.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, this item is continued to the meeting on October 14th. It's now going to bring us to new business items. 11A, a resolution continued from September 8, 2025, amending the Town Council Rules of Conduct and the Rules of Commission, Committee, and Board appointments as shown on Exhibit 3. Jim, going to go to you on this one.
As I alluded to at the beginning of the meeting, there are two things that sometimes can tie our hands at this meeting. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. So it's required under the Town Council Rules of Conduct that, and Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong on how I state this, but we're required to have a work session, and we are required to have interviews in the work session. So what I would like to see is that the work session will be, if needed, and that the interviews can be in a work session or can be in the body of the council agenda in the event we don't have a work session. Because if you remember about 3-4 meetings ago, I think we had 1 or 2 interviews, and we budgeted a half hour, and we were done in like 10 minutes, and we took like a 20-minute intermission. So I think if we have flexibility where we really need an interview or 2 to get done, we don't need to do it in a work session that could take up to a half hour. So that's the ask. Once again, it's for the efficiency of the meeting, the business meeting.
Thank you, Jim. I'm good with the changes as outlined. My only thing is I would prefer that the meetings continue to begin at 7:30.
So I just have, I think maybe an oversight of too much was edited out in the red line.
Oh, sorry. I'm only talking with respect to the changes outlined on Exhibit 3.
I'm talking about that too.
Okay.
So if you could just, I know that you're not looking at it on your screen, but the red line section, so I'm okay if you need the meeting to start at 7:30 because of your work schedule, that's fair and fine. I'd rather it start at 7, but whatever, I'll make it work. Rule 2B, the town council may hold a work session, that's fine. But the next part, so it says, in addition, the town council may hold, it should continue to say work sessions and/or informational meetings from time to time. Because we are holding work sessions from time to time on other topics. Like we have something on the land use laws, we're gonna have something on the homestead exemption, we're gonna have work sessions. They're not just, I look at informational sessions might be, we're reporting out on the high school project, or we're doing a community information session on something. But when we're meeting with the planning board and doing work, it's an oversight. We over-edited there. It should say the town council may hold work sessions and informational meetings from time to time upon agreement. It's just too much.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm agreeing with that, yeah.
Because we already have work sessions planned, so we can't not have them.
Yep.
I think we could leave all of the language in. It doesn't have to. It just says the work session could begin. We could leave it all in and just be conditional verbiage instead of shall begin. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the work session, what's in the red line, the work session may begin no later than 7 p.m. Work sessions may be scheduled to commence earlier than 7 p.m. and will be posted 40 hours. We could just change it all.
I'm okay with keeping all of the red lines except for the town council may hold work sessions and informational meetings. Like, I agree with you to add that line back in, but I'm okay with the other red lines. on that.
But if we have a work session on a topic, it says the work session shall begin no later than 7 PM. And Rory is basically saying at our council.
Right, I think Rory's saying that for meetings on Mondays, no earlier than 7:30, but if we had a Tuesday or Wednesday meeting, that he possibly could do a meeting earlier than that, and that...
Yeah, let me be clear. My request for 7:30 is only with respect to the town council regular session meetings.
I see.
So if we had a 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock or whatever, we could have. Whoa. We got Maeve on, so... But again, I think that the red line's fine, and I think Councilor Bergner's suggestion is valid. Add back in work sessions and.
I don't think that we need to define a starting time for all work sessions. I think we can be flexible in that regard.
Fair. So you're just going to put the little work sessions and in. Great.
Okay.
So motion to approve item 11A.
So you're editing Rule 12, the agenda.
Mhm.
That's it? You're going to move, you're pushing the date back to Thursday?
I'm not particularly sure why it said Wednesday, because we do finalize on Thursday, and that's when we post it. I don't know if that was just a correction that we made. Maybe, I'm not sure.
You don't know?
Because we finalize our agenda on Thursday when we're ready to post it. That's what I consider finalized.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're clear here. So motion.
So motion to approve item 11A with adding back the language of, in Rule 2B, the town council may hold work sessions and informational meetings.
Second.
And then the adding back of 7:30 PM in Rule 1.
And adding back the 7:30 PM on Rule 1.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Jim. All right, it's going to move us to item B, discussion and potential action continued from September 8, 2025, relative to scheduling a work session regarding new state land use laws and the impact on the town, as requested by Councilmember Bergner from the following available dates. Okay, so we picked October 21 for the homestead work session. Is that right? And October 6th is, what is that, a Monday?
Yep.
All right. I'm open to either October 9, a Thursday, or October 23. We have two set work sessions that week if we do October 23.
October 9 is a Thursday.
It could work in tandem, you know, discuss homestead, and 2 days later discuss land use.
I'd prefer to do the 23rd personally, but up for whatever. Flexibility with my counselors.
I'm fine either way.
23rd?
Yeah.
All right, there's no Monday meeting that week, right? That would just be Tuesday work session, Thursday work session,
Yeah, that's correct.
preferably 7 to 9.
Pack your sleeping bags.
7.
You good with that? So there'll be 2 work sessions that week. Yeah? All right. Do we need a vote for that, or are we just good? All right.
Motion to hold the land use work session and invite, I guess, maybe the planning board as well, or at least include them, inform them. Sorry, we didn't talk about that. Sorry to add that in, but I think we should include, maybe we did. Motion to, let me revise. Motion to hold the land use work session on October 23rd at 7 PM.
All right, we got a motion.
Second.
We got a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
And-
that passes.
And then just make sure that this is included in the planning board notification that they can attend and learn. I don't know. Thoughts?
I think typically if we invite the planning board, we'd post it as a joint work session, just in case a quorum of the planning board wants to attend.
Weren't they working on a report or submission to us anyway on the changes?
They are.
Okay, this is a town council work session, right? So we invite the planning board to attend and encourage their input, but it won't be a joint session.
What's your recommendation? Because we can re-vote on that.
Our office always advises that if you want to invite the full planning board, you should post it as a meeting under the planning board as well. If not, you could limit the invitation to, say, the chair and the vice chair.
I would probably revise it and do a joint thing, because there's some strong leadership and membership who contribute, and I would hate to say only Maria Mack and Joe Murphy can attend, because you might get other good input from Susan or Robin or anybody else.
I'd rather do just a town council work session where we really work through it with the solicitor's office. I think it will be more, I value their input and I encourage them to come, and I hope that they do give input.
My approval as well was contingency
can't-
to a work session for the town council, not a joint session with the planning board.
But they can't all attend if we don't,
Why could they not all attend?
because it's an OMA, right?
But they're not taking any votes.
Can they attend? I want every member of the planning board, should they want to come.
If you want them to come and be able to discuss, if we have a quorum potentially discussing things, that constitutes a meeting. So our office would recommend that if the full planning board is invited, it's posted as a meeting of the planning board as well.
Well, I'd rather it be a town council work session in that we walk through with legal counsel all the changes.
That's why I had asked about the report and recommendation from them, that we'll have that. But I think there's going to be substantial discussion among the 5 members here. And if we add another 7 people, it'll go till 2 a.m.
True.
All right, so we did vote on this, right?
We did. So,
If we want to have a subsequent meeting joint with the planning board regarding the laws after we all have a good understanding, because presumably they already
Right.
have a good understanding, then we can consider that.
then let's just invite the chair and the vice chair. That's not an OMA. Everyone else can watch, but have them here.
That's fine.
There's always information that they're taking away and learning as well. So
Sure. Okay.
can we do that? Is that fine? Is that a better compromise? I just feel like if you ever watch Joe Murphy on the planning board, you would see he has a lot to contribute, and a great understanding.
Okay. All right, it's going to move us to item C. Brian Sylvia.
Good evening. So at a meeting dated May 12th, the council directed the town manager to identify funds in the amount of $30,000 for the 250th committee. The recommendation is to move $30,000 of the balance of $60,000 that is in the town's contingency to Fund 323, which is currently the 300th anniversary committee. And then the other part of this action, changing that fund from the 300th anniversary committee to a more general anniversaries and celebrations committee fund.
All right, any questions for Brian?
They have 2,000.
Yes.
And we're going to give them an additional 28, or are you giving, the way that it's written, it sounds like now their budget is 32.
That's how I originally had it at a total of 30, and then I was it Terry? Did I hear that from you, that it should be 32? They were requesting they requested what was in the balance of the 250, the 300th committee, the 2,000, and an additional 30. That's where the 32 came from. I had it originally written up as 28 in the 2, but yeah.
I feel like we should just make it 30, and they should come back and demonstrate that they need it, because they didn't have, the original budget was 180, then they went down to this and that, and then, you know, we're spending other people's money, and we should spend it in a way that's responsible and good stewards. So I just want to I'm happy to give them the 28, make them whole at 30.
I think that's good. I would go with that too. I mean, I know it's only $2,000, but we have to be faithful in, you know, taking care of other people's money. So I would say I would agree with that 28 and then that too.
Brian, quick cue. I'm reading this correctly, that the contingency account, well, if this went through, it would have $60,000 left or $30,000 left?
30,000.
Okay.
That's correct. The budget for the year is 60,000. Nothing's been expended, so there will be 30,000 left, or 32 if it's amended.
We could have 32.
Correct.
So.
All right, so the proposal that we are considering right now is that instead of using 30,000 of the contingency, we would use approximately 27 and change.
Yep.
And then make up the difference by whatever 2,000 and change is in that 300th anniversary fund.
That's correct.
Which would be moved over to the 250th.
That's correct. Currently, the current balance in the 300th is $2,054.50. So yes.
Do they have a need at the committee, 250th anniversary committee, for the extra money? Or are we just, you know?
Sorry. That is my understanding from speaking with Terry Murphy, that the request was 30,000, and what was the balance in the 250th, 300th committee?
Okay. All right, any other thoughts on this one here?
Have we seen an itemized budget for how that money is going to be spent?
You've seen a budget that was presented to you 2 months ago, at least, from the 250th Committee Chair, Kenny Burke. So there is a budget. The committee is also expecting that they are going to require grant funding and solicitation of sponsorship dollars to be able to do what they want to do, the slate of program and events that they have. So they do need funds, and will require more funds through solicitation of sponsorship dollars and grant applications.
So the 2,000 plus in additional monies that are being sought, that would just help sort of bridge the gap between the additional monies they're trying to raise through private donations, I guess, and sponsorships?
It would, but that's certainly a council decision as to whether or not you want to use that. Otherwise, that $2,054 is sitting there until a future program or event that may or may not come along. Yeah, the 350th. So it's there, and the balance, that balance also was as a result of fundraising done by the 300th Anniversary Committee. Obviously, there was funding that was allocated through the town council, but there was a significant amount also fundraised by the 300th Anniversary Committee.
All right, I really see no harm done here in giving them that little extra, but if we feel that we need them to demonstrate the need for the excess.
I'm in favor of giving the 27,000 change for the 250th birthday party. So.
Okay. In addition to 30,000? Okay. All right, I think we've decided here by a majority that the amounts in the 300th anniversary fund will be transferred over to the 250th anniversary committee. 30,000 less that amount will be transferred over from the town council contingency fund, leaving about 32,000 and change in the town council contingency fund. Okay. Do I hear a motion for that?
I move that we transfer $2,054.50 from the 300th anniversary fund and take the balance from the town council contingency to allow a budget of $30,000 for the 250th anniversary committee.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. Thank you, Brian. It's going to bring us to item D, a resolution authorizing that the recognition plaque for the Peacedale Library's Community Learning Center include the following content and language. We have Laurel Clark. We also have Tim Murphy. Tim, you want to come up? Up to you. All right.
Good evening. So you all, I hope, had a chance to look at the memo. I outlined 3 options, kind of a small, medium, large. It is up to your will. It could be even something else. So I will leave that in your hands.
All right.
I don't see the, oh, I do see. I see.
Laurel, did you get a note from Jesse?
I did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Of course, I love the one with all the names. I think that's great. Acknowledges everyone who was there and been a part of it. I don't know how small that font will be, but that would be my preference.
Which is which one?
Option 3.
I would vote for option 3, yeah.
Can you fit all that, Laurel?
Well, they'll customize it. I estimate that the space, the wall's only so big, is going to be approximately the size of that push out behind you where the seal is.
Okay, but in that one, you don't even have the governor.
Well, he'll have a separate plaque. That one's required.
Okay.
And then there's a option for a municipal plaque.
That comes out of the grant money, or, because this one says congressional?
No, they actually pay for it, the grant administrators. It's not coming out of our money.
Okay.
I think number 3 would be fantastic.
Can I ask a question? Are there other plaques of other things? I don't want to do what's not customary or traditional, so what's at the senior center, or what's at the rec center?
The rec center has one that I've been meaning to look at. It's quite large, right, Terry? It has a lot of names.
It identifies the council members
Does it?
at the time. It does.
It does.
Okay. I just don't want to be, I just want to stay in the same lane as what's been done, that's all. I'm just looking over at you, Terry. So is the senior...
Sorry, Terry.
Is the rec center or the senior centers, are you familiar with the plaques on the rec center or the senior center plaques?
I am so sorry.
Yes.
Do they
Senior
have...
center, I do not recollect what's on the senior center plaque, but the rec center plaque has the town council, it has the recreation commission, and I believe it has the committee that was formed, the planning committee that was formed for the rec center development.
So like John Biafora, Dave Palazetti,
Correct.
Joanne Blessing, they're all on there?
Correct.
I just don't want to, I don't need to have my name on a plaque, but I just want to follow the tradition of what the town has always done, that's all.
Okay, that's what the rec center plaque looks like. I cannot recollect what's on the senior center plaque.
Have you seen the sign of
Having
Old
a
Mountain
senior
Field?
moment.
Have you seen the sign of Old Mountain Field?
No, I haven't seen the sign.
Oh, it's great.
Are you on it?
It identifies the council members on there.
Does it?
Are you guys on it?
All 5 of us are on it.
We are? Oh.
I'll have to go and look. Okay.
So I'm
It's
going to
fine.
make a motion to approve item 11D with option number 3.
All right, we got a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just proofreading the spelling of the names, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, I'll have many eyes look at it.
All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes. Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you.
All right, Rich Bourbonnais, we got 4 items. Before you begin, any questions for Rich on these? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I spray paint your names on all the roads we pave. So item number, well, it's item E. So each year, so this is the third year in a row, we've received funding from the Department, it's through the Department of Transportation from the state under the Municipal Road and Bridge Program. The first year we received $561,000. Last year we received $184,000. This year they want to provide us $182,000. Each year is a two-thirds match. So we come up with 2/3 of the funding. They come up with the 182. So that would require that we utilize town dollars of $364,000 towards road improvement projects, of which we've already allocated in the 25-26 CIP. In fact, it was upwards of $650. So this is just authorizing the town manager to sign the agreement.
All right, any questions for Rich on this one? All right, we'll take it all in a block, Rich, so we can move to the
Okay,
next one.
so the fuel system, and unless you're over there fueling your car, you don't know this, but the fuel system over at the highway garage requires that you key in some information to pump fuel. Of course, it's some information about you. You got a key fob. You key in the mileage of the car. All of that's run with software that's been the same software since 2015. So we're looking to upgrade that software. The newer, and the software is called Fuel Master. The newer version of this Fuel Master will work really well with the software you just approved for our fleet management. Now remember that we're doing police cars, ambulances, everything, all of the DPS vehicles as well. So the newer version of this will work really, really well with Fleetio. And what it'll do is it's real-time data, so that the mileage, everything's put right into Fleetio, so we will know right away whether oil changes are required, things like that. So the maintenance of the vehicles become much better. The cost of that, so this is a request to authorize and award a contract to Syntec Systems for $31,260.50, and the money is available through the highway operational budget for the 25-26 operational budget. So, any questions? If not, I'll move on.
Yes.
Fred, go ahead.
Is it a yearly subscription, Counselor?
So there is a yearly subscription. It's it's a yearly subscription. It's we anticipate the dollar amount is $1,200 a year, and we'll include that as part of our regular subscriptions that we have for other softwares. You'll see it. It'll show up in the operational budget. It won't be for this year, of course, but for next year, you'll see it in the next year's budget.
Thanks, Rich.
And thank you for bringing that up. I meant to mention that, but it was cut off on my memo here. The next item, Fresh Meadow Culvert. You've got to be familiar with this. There are two walls on the side of the culvert. It's on Broad Rock Road. It's over by Indian Village. We're going to be taking those down and putting up guardrail, cleaning it up quite a bit, repointing some of the block. This was engineered over the past couple of years and went through permitting with DEM. So I'd like to award the contract to True North Civil. This is the first time we'll be using them. They came in with a good price. And we had allocated $180,000 in the capital 24-25 for this purpose. I'm requesting $188,407. That includes a contingency. If we need that full contingency, the additional $8,407 is available in the DPS capital reserve. Okay.
Can I ask a question on that one, Rich?
Please.
Just in reading your memo about the contingency, two questions came to mind. One is this just going to keep the status quo, or is this looking to increase, I guess, flow capacity? I'm not sure that's the right word.
We're not touching the culvert at all. That would have been a much larger project. That would have included a hydraulic study and all that. That's not this. This is strictly to clean up the road edge. The blocks are completely deteriorated. They need to be removed.
Are you anticipating potential problems? And that's why the way it was worded with respect to the contingency just sounded like you were anticipating.
Well, so yeah, good question. So, I always get worried whenever you're dealing with anything with the land. And, in this case, I think that I'm a little bit concerned that if they're pointing block, they find something that maybe is a little bit more than what they thought, and there's some reason that they need additional funding to clean up some of the stonework. So there are head walls there, and it's block stone, and it's got to be all repointed and cleaned up, so.
Okay, thanks.
The final item, it's a request. I request authorization to award a bid to Amtech Arizona Instrument to supply a Jerome hydrogen sulfide analyzer at the cost of $27,920. $30,000 was allocated. This is for in 25-26 in the CIP for wastewater. This is a meter that will allow us to pick up hydrogen sulfide or the odors that are in the area around the wastewater plant. So, I've been talking with different plants, and I've also been talking with the state, and there are programs out there that some of these different plants follow as far as how they set up, where they set up, and regular sensors, regular readings that they take in order to track changes. So, we get a lot of calls from the neighborhood. It's a good time to maybe set a baseline and just see where we're at, and if we get a call, then we can go out right away and grab a sample.
All right. Do I hear a motion on those 4 items?
Motion to approve items 11E, F, G, and H.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
We got to buy a dock. Let's go.
Mike Stack.
We're waiting all night for your lifty
My
dock.
only
thing.
question is, when is the field trip on the boat?
Because we all want to go.
December 2025, the boat arrives.
So great news. The production schedule did get moved up. They found an opening in their production. So yes, the boat, well, I won't say it'll arrive in December of 2025, but right now they're telling us mid-December the boat will be complete with an anticipated delivery in the balmy month of January. So we can book a ride in January.
So not for Christmas.
We'll wait till the warmer weather to do. Yeah, I guess it will be done for Christmas, but not here.
Seal watching.
Yes. So before you is a request for your consideration to purchase a jet dock. This was funding was allocated in this year's CIP, $56,000. The cost is $55,743, which will be paid for out of the capital fund that was established for this.
Motion to approve item, 11J. 11I,
Aye.
sorry.
Second.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
We can't wait for it.
Just a quick comment. Sometime when it comes in, not in January, there are a couple of members of the council and probably all of us want to take a ride and sort of review the marina areas.
Absolutely.
Because we've been discussing that constantly.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
I also feel like we should have a christening of the boat, like a celebration, because this boat, we should go back and play the tape for why we need the boat, what the uses of the boat are, and educate. We should do a press release to the community about the boat's arrival. We could name the boat
And
the
bring some
Manny.
champagne.
We could name the boat the Manny. There you go.
All right.
We can look to plan all of that or some of that for sure.
All right.
Have the Waterfront Commission come up with a name.
Okay.
We'll allocate monies for a committee to prepare the celebration at a subsequent meeting.
We have
Fantastic.
$2,000 for that.
All right. Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That passes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mike. All right. Luke Murray, come on up.
Mike's a tough act to follow with the jet dock. I don't think mine is as fun and interesting, but good evening. For your consideration, I'm looking for an award to Horsley Witten for the Indian Run Brook Green Buffer Restoration and Stormwater Retrofit Project. That's a mouthful, as well as the Guild parking area. So the short on this is a project that's gone on for about 5 years. The Southern New England project had done some preliminary design work with us and had funded some technical assistance from Horsley Witten several years ago on this. That includes some retrofits to the parking lot to improve stormwater management and BMPs, best management practices, swales, etc. Also replanting the embankment in front of the Guild to restore between the village green and the parking lot. So this is to do additional design work, go through the DEM permitting process, which is required, and get us to a point we can actually get it out to RFP. Portion of this is funded by a grant. So I don't know if you remember, but back in it was September of '24, this body had approved the acceptance of a DEM grant to restore the embankment and do this project. That was $66,000. We're matching some of those funds.
All right, thank you, Luke.
Yep.
Any questions?
Motion to approve item 11J.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Luke. All right, it's going to bring us now back to public comment. Anyone in the audience who hasn't spoken who wishes to speak, I invite you to come on up. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on now to appointments. We had 2 interviews tonight for the planning board. We had 2 interviews previously for the planning board. There's 4 applicants out there. There's also 2 reappointments to the zoning board of review that we had interviews tonight.
And I'm not participating.
What about zoning board of review?
So I was going to make a resolution to reappoint Tom Daniels and Jeff Elia to the zoning board of review.
Second.
That's easy.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
So the 4 applicants we have for the planning board are Bob Votava tonight,
Yep,
Joe Martin tonight,
yep. Armin Monaco
and
and Jerzak.
Rick Jerzak. Yeah, sorry.
So I still believe that the top 2 are Monaco and Jerzak. I think they both bring a lot to the table. Both attorneys. One was a judge, one was the chair of the zoning board. I'm leaning a little bit more toward Monaco. I was, both very impressive resumes. I was very close. Either one will be good. Just leaning toward Monaco. I think that experience as a judge will be very valuable to the planning board, and that's just sort of where I'm leaning. But both are 2 valuable choices, and I believe those are the top 2 of the 4. Any other thoughts?
I would like to make a motion to nominate Armin Monaco to the planning board.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I don't believe that he's the best qualified, so that's where the motion's going to go, and that's where the majority will go. But I think that Rick Jerzak has proven experience and professionalism, and I think that he has already served the town and has a good understanding of land use, a good understanding of development, and that I would support Rick, but the motion is for the other ones. Just explaining to you that I flipped the order. I think Rick is a better candidate.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Nay.
I believe that passes 3-1 with 1 abstention.
Patty, did you vote?
I seconded the motion.
So does that mean?
That means.
It doesn't mean you voted that way. You didn't vote, but.
All right, clerk, can you take the roll?
Councilmember Bergner?
Nay.
Council Vice President Marin?
Abstain.
Council President McEntee?
Aye.
Councilmember Ali?
Aye.
Councilmember Wedgemont?
Aye.
So that's 3 yes, 1 abstain, 1 nay.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to the end here. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Well,
We have 3 250th applicants.
Oh, sorry. Motion to appoint Deb Suggs,
Fred Hazard.
Greg Hazard?
Fred Hazard.
Fred Hazard, and it's 2 Cs.
Chuck Carey.
Chuck Carey, to
Second.
the 200th anniversary.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just wanted to say thank you to all the planning board applicants that did apply. And keep applying to the 250th anniversary if you're interested in serving.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, we have to vote on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes. We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Are we sure about this?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. All right, that passes.